Chapter 5277. The June family soaring cloud body is also an excellent cultivation body, but it's a bit worse than the heavenly mandate body. The heavens are fair. Although the soaring cloud body can't compare to the heavenly mandate body, the possibility of the soaring cloud body appearing is much higher than the heavenly mandate body. It's because of this that the June family has been trying to replace us and complete the cooperation with the Shao family. This way, the secret territory will be opened by them, and they will gain more benefits. Since the Shao family is a threat to us, why didn't we just leave them out when we joined forces with them? Because the opening of the secret territory requires the holy stones of the three families. This secret territory was discovered by the ancestors of our three families together, so we made this agreement. Previously, because we had been working with the Shao family, the June family was suppressed, so they were dissatisfied and wanted to destroy us. All these years, we have been guarding against them, but we didn't expect them to succeed this time. Yujua's expression was complicated. At this point, he didn't think about the reason for the destruction. However, once the two families joined forces, it wouldn't be easy for them to get their share in the future. So that's how it is. Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. No wonder Yujue was so polite to Xiao Yanlong. It turned out that there was such a reason. Father, I heard that this secret territory hasn't been opened for many years. Maybe it won't open this time, so we don't have to worry so much. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with thoughts. Although this wasn't good news, it wasn't urgent. There was still a way. Originally, we also thought that we wouldn't be able to open it for a while, but the situation this time is very special. Di Yujue frowned. His handsome face was complicated and worried. All these years, the secret territory hasn't been able to open, but since Beichen was born, we felt that the opportunity to open it might appear again. When he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but look at Di Beichen. Indeed, the Di family hadn't had a physique of heaven's will for many years, and Di Beichen was the only one. What's more, Di Beichen had disappeared for so many years and then came back. Perhaps this was really fate. Not only that, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao So both meet the requirements, so we think that we might really succeed this time. Our family's power of inheritance has already dissipated to the point that there isn't much left. If we can really open the inheritance, it will undoubtedly be of great help to our family. However, if we're not the ones to open it, then the distribution will be up to them. Di Yujua's expression was complicated. The Jun family had been eyeing the Di family covetously all these years, trying to shake their position. Once the land of heritage was opened, the Jun family would definitely not let go of this opportunity. It would not be beneficial to them if they were to keep this up. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two also fell into silence. This situation was indeed very complicated, and it would be very difficult to change it. Father, what is the use of the radiant body? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Chapter 5278. Hearing Di Yujue's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed slightly. If it's another light attribute cultivator, will it work? Only now did she understand the relationship between the Di family and the Xiao family. It was no wonder that Di Yujue had been trying his best to mend the relationship between the two families. Although they still didn't know what the use of the inheritance was, they knew that it would be of great help to the Di family. Moreover, this power would affect the entire family. It was extremely important. If the decision-making power fell into the hands of the Xiao family and the Jun family, their benefits would be greatly reduced. This wasn't a situation they wanted to see. The Jun family had always been ambitious. If the Di family grew, it would be extremely disadvantageous to them. Actually, we've tried this before, but we've never succeeded. Di Yujue understood what Bailey Hongzhuang meant. His daughter-in-law had the light attribute, and her talent was extremely strong, comparable to Xiao So. However, in the history of the Di family, it had always been an alliance with the Xiao family. In the process, they had tried other methods. Not only them, but the Jun family had also tried. However, no one had succeeded. In the end, they chose to accept their fate. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' hearts sank. If all other possibilities were cut off, it would be really terrible. Father, what if the Holy Maiden isn't from the Xiao family? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Her clear and pleasant voice sounded again. Di Yujue was slightly stunned. Father, if the Holy Maiden isn't from the Xiao family, then will the blood of the Holy Maiden be effective? Di Beichen immediately understood Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts. Di Yujue fell into deep thought. Actually, the most important thing about this blood is the power of light. The power of the Saintess is undoubtedly the purest. I think it should be possible, but I'll have to try it out to know the specifics. There is no guarantee that it will succeed. There had only been one Holy Maiden of the Light since the beginning, and she was from the Xiao family, so they had never thought about it. However, after being mentioned like this, Diyu felt that it was extremely possible. After receiving this answer, the corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth suddenly curled up into a playful and confident smile, revealing a hint of wickedness and beauty. Looks like I have to snatch the position of the Holy Maiden of the Light. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Yujue and Di Xiaofeng were both shocked. They had also proposed this before, but Bailey Hongzhuang directly rejected it. Therefore, they didn't continue to think about it. They didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to make such a decision at this moment. Hongzhuang, I'm afraid it's a bit late now. Di Yujue frowned. He was naturally very pleased that Bailey Hongzhuang was willing to consider the interests of the family. However, the situation now was different from before. Previously, Xiao Shou was unable to become the true Holy Maiden of the Light. Now that she has met the requirements, it won't be easy to snatch the position of the Holy Maiden of the Light. The Xiao family wasn't incompetent. They would definitely not allow others to shake Xiao Shou's position. Moreover, Xiao Shou's master was the vice president of the Holy Assembly. The reason why she could reach this step was because of Tong Yunshu's full support. Chapter 52-79. Di Xiaofeng frowned with worry. Based on her performance in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm, Xiao Shou was indeed no match for Bailey Hongzhuang. However, their family did not have much contact with the Holy Light Assembly, so they did not know what the situation was like. In comparison, the Xiao family clearly had the upper hand. If Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to take back the position of the Holy Maiden, it would not be easy. The situation now is indeed very difficult. Di Xiaofeng said in a low voice that Xiao Shou must have felt the threat from Hongzhuang, which is why she wanted to complete all of this in such a short time. He had seen Xiao Shou's reaction very clearly. She was determined to get the position of the Holy Maiden and would not allow anyone to take it away from her. Now that the news had spread, it could be said that it was a done deal. She must be extremely pleased with herself now. Looking at the worried looks on their faces, Bailey Hongzhuang did not lose her confidence. Compared to Xiao Shou, she had received the true inheritance of the Holy Maiden. She believed that since she was able to defeat Xiao Shou outside the remains, she would be able to do the same in the fight for the position of the Holy Maiden. Father, will this ceremony be held in front of everyone? Di Yujue nodded. That's right. This is an extremely important ceremony for the Holy Light Assembly. They have specially invited many forces to observe it. Our family will be there as well. Then we will go and take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her ink-black phoenix eyes sparkled with a deep and resplendent light. She would definitely take it back with her own hands. Xiao Shou, you can be happy for now. The Holy Maiden was her master. As her disciple, she naturally could not tarnish her master's reputation. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had no intention of giving up, Di Yujue wanted to persuade her. In this kind of situation, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. He did not really care about the result. He only hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang would not be disappointed. Father, we have to believe in Hongzhuang's ability. Di Beichen's lips curled into a faint, confident smile. Others might not know, but he was well aware of his wife's ability. Looking at Di Beichen's confident appearance, Di Yujue and Di Xiaofeng looked at each other. Their doubts lessened a bit, and a trace of a smile appeared on their faces. Since they were so confident, that was a good thing. After leaving Di Yujue's residence, Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but ask, Hong Zhuang, are you really that confident? This wasn't a simple matter. All along, the Xiao family has the most light attribute cultivators, so their relationship with the Radiant Sacred Assembly is not ordinary. Even the main assembly of the Radiant Sacred Assembly is located not far from the Xiao family in the Piercing Wind City. That's nothing, Bailey Hong Zhuang shrugged. This kind of thing should be based on ability, not relationship, right? If it was based on relationship, Xiao Shou would have already become the Holy Maiden. Di Beichen said faintly. Looking at the two people in front of him who did not seem to care, Di Xiaofeng was completely convinced. It seemed that these two people had already made up their minds. He did not need to say anything more. Where is Yin Yan? She's at a place not far from Dr. Wu's residence. You can go and find her. As for how to settle her down, that is up to you. Chapter 5280. After returning to the room, Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen's expressions became more serious and dignified. They had listened to Di Yujue and Di Xiaofeng's reminders, but they still believed that there was a way to solve it. Wife, Xiao Shou, is determined to get this position. I'm afraid it'll be a bit troublesome for us to take it away. His deep, dark eyes revealed a thoughtful light. Whether it's your talent or understanding of the light attribute, you surpass Xiao Shou. I believe there won't be any problems in this regard, but I'm afraid that the vice president won't be easy to deal with. Once they control the situation during the ceremony, it won't be easy for us to destroy it. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded slightly. This is also what I'm most worried about. Even if she had checked the notes, it was only some records of the Holy Assembly. There was no introduction to the ceremony and requirements of the Holy Maiden of Light. If they wanted to completely mess up this matter, they must first understand some things. Now that they had determined their goal, the Di family was the family they had to protect. No matter what, they couldn't let the other families have the slightest chance. The Jun family and the Xiao family now regarded them as mortal enemies. Once they developed, they would fall into a terrible situation. For the people they cared about, the position of the Holy Maiden of Light must be snatched. Bai Yin Che and Ling also came out of the Chaos Ring. They already knew the two's plan. Sister, I support you in snatching the position of the Holy Maiden of Light. Bai Yin Che's purple eyes rippled with a demonic and firm luster. This position originally belonged to you. Ling also nodded, her eyes revealing ridicule and disdain. That Xiao Shou actually has the nerve to claim that she's the Holy Maiden of Light? She doesn't even look at her own qualifications. I think these guys from the upper realm are simply insulting the name of the Holy Maiden of Light. She had been very dissatisfied with this matter for a long time. What ability did the original owner have? Even if she was the next Holy Maiden of Light, she had to at least meet the requirements. With Xiao Shou's aptitude, she was not qualified at all, okay? Looking at Linger's indignant look, Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but chuckle. If Xiao Shou knew that she was despised like this, she would definitely be depressed to death. Sister, since you want to snatch the position of the Holy Maiden of the Light, I think you should first understand the situation. If we don't understand the situation well enough, many things will be tied down. Bai Yin Che had a serious look on his face. Only when they understood the specific process would they be able to make their move. At the very least, we need to know the real requirements to become the Holy Maiden of Light. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded. I think so too. She had to be sure that she had the ability to defeat Xiao Shou and become the Saintess of the Light. Only then would she have the confidence to show up. Otherwise, she would only bring trouble to the Di family. If she didn't have enough power, she would just be playing to the gallery. Instead, it would be used against her. She subconsciously looked at Di Beichen. With just one look, Di Beichen had already understood what she meant. He immediately said, Wife, why don't we make a trip to the Piercing Wind City first? That would be great. The succession ceremony of the Holy Maiden of Light will be held next month. Father and the rest will probably leave in a few days. Why don't we leave first? Chapter 5281. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded slightly. Let's do as you say. After making the decision, the two of them did not delay and left the room in the blink of an eye. This kind of thing should be done sooner rather than later. They had to understand the situation as soon as possible so that they could make a good plan. Di Baichun went to Di Yujue's residence again. He had to tell Di Yujue's plan so that he could explain it to him. Hongzhuang, you're here. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang appear, Shang Wanningying smiled. She looked behind her and found Di Baichun's figure was not there. She felt strange. Why are you here alone? Where's Baichun? He has something to tell the head of the family, so he won't be here for the time being. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and looked at Ao Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao, how have you been recently? Of course I've been well here. Ao Ling Xiao smiled. I've been in seclusion for a while and haven't gone out. That's good. I've made quite a bit of progress recently. My cultivation speed here is really fast. Ao Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with joy and satisfaction. As of now, this was simply the best place for cultivation. In the past, his cultivation environment was not so good. Not only was the vitality rich, but after his aptitude had improved, his cultivation speed was twice as good with half the effort. In addition, the day of his return to the family was getting closer and closer. He had a lot of goals. I'm here this time to tell everyone something. What is it? Mo Yindua noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's slightly serious expression and asked with concern. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately told everyone the two news that she had just heard. Hearing this, everyone's eyes widened. Xiao So actually got engaged to Jun Lingxuan so quickly? She's really not reserved at all. Shang Wanningying was secretly speechless. This guy had fallen in love with Baichun at first sight. The speed of his change of heart was too fast. Whether it's them or the two families, I'm afraid they can't wait to bring them together. This situation isn't strange. Mo Yunjua's expression was mild. However, Xiao So actually has the right to become the Saint of Light. Could it be because she comprehended the Holy Tablet of Light? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I can't think of any other reason. This guy is really lucky. Shang Wanningying's face was full of dissatisfaction. He got lucky. Why do I feel so unhappy? I don't feel happy either. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled as a vicious look appeared in her eyes. That's why I've decided to take back the position of the Holy Maiden. Just as she finished speaking, everyone's eyes fell upon Bailey Hongzhuang in unison. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Hongzhuang, you finally thought it through. Shang Wanningying jumped up in surprise. This is great. You're so much better than Xiao So. This position should belong to you. You're not worried about that problem anymore. Mo Yunjue stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. He knew very well what Bailey Hongzhuang had been worried about, but he never thought that she would suddenly change her mind. I'm not worried anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang pursed her red lips. This matter involves the family's interests, so we have to do this. As long as it's your decision, we'll support it. Chapter 5282. This time, we're going there mainly to find out about the process of the succession ceremony and the requirements to become the Holy Maiden. The Piercing Wind City is very close to the Xiao family, and Xiao So has already been appointed as the next Holy Maiden. I believe that the entire Piercing Wind City belongs to them. If too many people go there, they will easily discover us. Di Baichun and I plan to go there first. Therefore, you guys will have to wait for a few days before going to the Piercing Wind City with Xiao Feng and the rest. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little apologetic. Usually, they would travel together, but this time, she and Di Baichun would have to travel alone. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, when Xiren could not help but wave his hand, I thought it was something big, so it's just a small matter. The two of you can go first. It doesn't matter if we go later. That's right. Anyway, we won't be of any use if we go early. You guys don't have to worry about us. I knew you guys would have such a reaction. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. With such a group of friends who would support them no matter what, she was very satisfied. There are only two of you on this trip. You must be extra careful. Mo Yunjue said slowly. His deep black eyes were filled with worry. Xiao So has already treated you as a thorn in her side. The same goes for the Jun family. If they find out that you guys are alone, they might take the opportunity to attack you. Don't worry, we will be very careful. Since everyone has said everything that needs to be said, I wish you all success. A.O. Lingxiao smiled. You must snatch the title of Holy Maiden of Light. I think you're the real Holy Maiden of Light. After explaining everything, Di Beichun also settled everything. The two of them went to visit their grandparents and mother before embarking on the journey to the Piercing Wind City. As the Di family and the Xiao family had always had a close relationship, they had built a teleportation array to the Piercing Wind City not far away. Hence, the two of them arrived at the Piercing Wind City very quickly. Looking at the majestic city gate in the distance, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but sigh. It is indeed the location of the Holy Light Assembly. The scale of the Piercing Wind City is much bigger than the cities we have seen before. Indeed, Di Beichun nodded his head. Look at the queue at the city gate. The Piercing Wind City is not just bustling with activity. This is a big city to begin with, and there's already a lot of people here. Plus, the Saintess Succession ceremony is going to be held next month. I'm sure everyone has heard the news and come here. I reckon that a lot of people are taking advantage of this opportunity to come to the market. When there are a lot of people, there will be a lot of treasures. We can take a look on the way. After seeing the underground market in Qishui City, Bailey Hongzhuang learned more about these situations from Lin Yi. Whenever a lively event was held somewhere, there would always be such a market. Listen to my wife. Di Beichun smiled slightly and said. After the two of them walked into the city, they found that the situation was more lively than they thought. There was an endless stream of pedestrians. Sometimes they could see a large team. Obviously, a certain force had arrived in advance. Chapter 5283. Walking on the wide road, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun first went to where the Holy Light Assembly was located. From afar, they could see the bright and resplendent building of the Holy Light Assembly. When the surrounding pedestrians looked over, they could not help but reveal an envious look in their eyes. In the upper realm, Holy Light cultivators were undoubtedly the most envied. The two of them only looked around the periphery, but did not enter. Perhaps Xiao Sou was in the Holy Light Assembly, and they would be discovered as soon as they entered. However, the two of them also paid attention to the Holy Light cultivators entering and exiting. If they wanted to understand the situation, the best way was to find out from the people of the Holy Light Assembly. We have to choose a target and then bribe them. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the cultivators walking out from inside and kept thinking about who to choose as a target. Young cultivators were not a good target because they had only just come into contact with the Holy Light Assembly and would not know the real situation inside. As for the higher-ups who truly understood the situation, they would not be so easily bribed. Therefore, it was not easy to choose a target. Di Beichun, let's go to that restaurant and have a seat. Bailey Hongzhuang pointed to a restaurant not far away. Sitting by the window on the second floor of the restaurant, they would be able to see the pedestrians entering the Holy Light Assembly. Di Beichun turned to look and understood Bailey Hongzhuang's idea. He smiled and nodded. All right. After entering the restaurant, the two of them did not attract anyone's attention. They sat down by the window and ordered some dishes. Master, we don't know much about the people of the Holy Light Assembly. How we know who to target? Xiao He frowned. It looked at them for a long time and felt that none of them were suitable. Be patient and wait a little longer. Bailey Hongzhuang stroked Xiao He's head. The furry feeling was really comfortable. This period of time is extremely important for the Holy Light Assembly. I'm sure many of the higher-ups will be coming in and out. Let's wait a little longer and we'll find a suitable candidate. Besides, even if I can't find it, I can still ask around. Di Beichun raised his eyebrows and looked at a table not far from them. As expected, the other party was talking about the Holy Light Assembly. Xiao Sou has been trying to become the next Saintess of the Light all these years, but she has never succeeded. Now, she is finally going to succeed. Right now, the Xiao family is in the limelight. The Jun family and the Xiao family are connected by marriage. Their status in the future will be extraordinary. Speaking of which, the young master of the Di family is at a disadvantage. I heard that Xiao Sou likes him, but Di Beichun only has his wife in his heart. I really admire him for rejecting her. So what? I heard that her light energy is even more powerful than Xiao Sou's. Xiao Sou is currently on guard against her. Are you serious? Is there anyone better than Xiao Sou in this aspect? Of course it's true. Hearing this person's conversation, the cultivator at the table next to him walked over and slammed the table. Bang! What nonsense are you talking about? Our Lady is the saintess of the Holy Light Assembly. How can she be inferior to that nuisance Bailey Hongzhuang? The man's face suddenly changed. He quickly cupped his fists and said, "Big brother, I'm talking nonsense. Please forgive me. Don't talk nonsense like this in the future." Chapter 52-84. After a series of warnings, the two of them who were chatting happily suddenly became like frosted eggplants. They did not dare to speak anymore and quickly found an excuse to leave. If they continued to stay here, it would be like sitting on pins and needles. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. It seemed that the piercing wind city was indeed the world of the Xiao family. From the aura of these people from the Xiao family, one could tell that they could do whatever they wanted in this place. When the few cultivators from the Xiao family saw that the two of them had left, their faces were filled with pride. They immediately sat down at the seats that the two of them had been sitting at, called for the waiter, and ordered a table full of good wine and dishes. These two fellows really don't know what's good for them. They actually dared to speak ill of our eldest young mistress. Aren't they courting death? Isn't that right? Our eldest young mistress is about to become the true holy maiden of light. How can that Bailey Hongzhuang be compared to her? I think the young master of the D family must be blind to make such a wrong decision. Many people say that Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in the light attribute can be compared to our eldest young mistress. I don't believe it at all. Others may not know, but how can we not know? Our Xiao family's deity's lake has a cleansing effect on light attribute cultivators. Light attribute cultivators from other places simply cannot be compared to us. Come, why bother with those stupid fellows? They have not seen the world and think that they are so great just because they heard a few false rumors. In reality, they are just fools. Let's drink. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other after hearing this conversation. They finally understood what they did not understand. No wonder Father said that only the blood of the Xiao family's cultivators could be used to open the deity's lake. It turns out that their family has such a special deity's lake. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark and bright eyes flashed with understanding. She knew that she had completely understood everything. Beichun, if this is the real problem, then even if I become the Holy Maiden of Light, I'm afraid it won't be of any use. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. This was not good news for them. Di Beichun also fell in a deep thought. Since Father said that it would be effective, there must be a reason. Let's understand the situation first. Moreover, do you remember that we also soaked in the pool water in Senior White's ruins? As Di Beichun's voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes suddenly narrowed. She immediately understood. You mean the pool water? Di Beichun nodded. The water in the pool has been purifying our bodies. Whether it is our body or our strength, it has been purified by the purification. Speaking of which, Senior White is the real Holy Maiden of the Light. In terms of inheritance, her inheritance is definitely not weaker than that of the Xiao family. Bailey Hongzhuang's mood suddenly relaxed. She originally thought that this situation was very tricky, but after understanding this point, she suddenly felt that everything was full of hope. The Xiao family also has a deity's lake. Master's inheritance also has a deity's lake. Could there be a connection between the two? Or is it really just a coincidence? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little confused. This was too much of a coincidence. Even the effects were the same. Di Beichun smiled and said, "If we have the chance, we will know when we take a look at the Xiao family's deity's lake. That's the inheritance of the Xiao family. How can an outsider casually see it?" Chapter 52-85. Upon hearing Di Beichun's nonchalant words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but stare closely at his face. From his expression, she knew that Di Beichun wasn't joking and was speaking the truth. Actually, it'd be good to have a look if we have the chance. She had a feeling that the Xiao family's inheritance was somehow related to the deity's lake that she had seen in her master's ruins. However, she couldn't quite put her finger on it. The two of them didn't continue their conversation. If the people at the next table overheard their conversation, it would inevitably cause more trouble. The most important thing for them now was to find the right person to inquire about the situation. Only then would they be able to deal with the situation. "Master, look over there." Just then, Xiao Hei's surprised voice suddenly rang out. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and was surprised to see a familiar figure. "I didn't think that I'd meet an acquaintance so soon." Di Beichen turned around and glanced at the figure before retracting his gaze without batting an eyelid. "It's Jiang Wenyan." "That's right, they're really early. There's still a month before the ceremony." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a smile. Previously, she had used an immortal spirit pill to exchange for the beast spirit fruit from Jiang Wenyan. She had a very good impression of Jiang Wenyan. At the very least, he was an open and magnanimous person. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Hei were sizing up Jiang Wenyan's gaze also fell upon the two of them. "Beichun, Jiang Wenyan is actually walking towards us. Could it be that he's recognized us?" Bailey Hongzhuang was shocked. Actually, they hadn't interacted much apart from the time they had met on the flying magic weapon. Could it be that this fellow has recognized our aura? Wasn't this a little too amazing? Jiang Wenyan walked towards Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Hei. His handsome face carried a faint, refined smile. "I didn't think that we'd meet again." The few cultivators from the Jiang family were also shocked when they saw Jiang Wenyan's actions. They did not remember when their young lord knew these two people. However, Jiang Wenyan's hand gesture stopped them from moving forward, so they sat down where they were. Although they were recognized by Jiang Wenyan, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang were a little surprised, but they did not panic. As the young master, he had some ability after all. Even if he could recognize it, it was not a big deal. "Young Master Jiang, it seems that we are fated to meet," Di Beichen said slowly. "Do you mind if I sit down?" "Of course." Jiang Wenyan took the opportunity to sit down and looked out of the window again. Then he calmly withdrew his gaze and understood something in his heart. "Aren't you too surprised that I recognized you? If young Master Jiang is willing to tell us, we are also very willing to understand." Di Beichen's expression was calm. He picked up his tea and took a small sip. His every movement exuded the demeanor of a great master. Jiang Wenyan smiled. "Actually, I recognized Miss Bailey's aura. We had made a deal before, so I carefully sensed it. Of course, there are many people who pay attention to a peerless beauty like Miss Bailey." "Young Master Jiang, you really know how to joke." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a small smile. She understood in her heart. When she had given the immortal spirit pill to Jiang Wenyan had paid a lot of attention to her. It was not strange that he remembered her aura. Chapter 5286. "Actually, it's not a big deal that I recognized you. Ever since the previous incident, we are already friends, right?" His gentle and elegant face was filled with a gentle smile, and his gentle tone was filled with sincerity, making people unconsciously let down their guard. "Of course, we are friends." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. "Since that's the case, I'll get straight to the point." Jiang Wenyan looked out of the window. "I can roughly guess the purpose of the two of you coming to the Piercing Wind City so early. If you want to understand the situation of the Holy Assembly or the Holy Maiden, that person might be your breakthrough point." Hearing Jiang Wenyan's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen both looked out of the window. At this moment, there was a middle-aged man standing outside the gate of the Holy Assembly. He was wearing the deacon's robe that was unique to the Holy Assembly, and he looked like he had a high status. After quietly memorizing this person's appearance in their hearts, the two of them quietly withdrew their gazes, still maintaining their calm and collected appearance. This person is Deacon Shihong Chao of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Originally, his position could have been promoted this time, but because Xiao Sou is about to become the saintess of the Radiant Sacred Assembly, the Xiao family's power in the Radiant Sacred Assembly has reached the peak. Perhaps the head of the Xiao clan wanted to cultivate more of his confidence here, so he placed another member of the Xiao clan in the Holy Light Assembly and took away the position that originally belonged to him. If we are wrong, Shi Hongqiao should be filled with resentment towards the Xiao family now. Using this situation, you guys are undoubtedly the most suitable person to look for him. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. The person they wanted to look for was in a similar situation. However, they did not expect Jiang Wenyin to help them identify the target. This situation was a little strange. Young Master Jiang, may I ask, why are you telling us this? Di Beichun stared at Jiang Wenyin with his deep eyes and suddenly felt that he could not see through this guy. It didn't matter if he had recognized them directly, or if he had already known their plans, or if he had even chosen a target for them. Actually, I only found out about this situation by chance. I just thought that you might want to know more about it. Of course, I also have some selfish motives. Hearing this, Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Jiang Wenyin. After suddenly telling them so many things, they would find it strange if there were no private messages. Actually, I can see that the two of you will achieve great things in the future, so I want to be on good terms with the two of you. Since we are friends, I have to show my sincerity. Jiang Wenyin looked at the two of them with a smile, her jade-like face devoid of any schemes. Of course, I personally feel that Miss Bailey is more suitable to be the Holy Maiden of Light. Knowing that his words could not dispel their concerns, Jiang Wenyin continued. As far as I know, the two of you treat your friends with sincerity. This humble servant envies this kind of friendship the most. In fact, when you helped A.O. Ling Xiao, I had already noticed you. I've always admired gentlemen. Following Jiang Wenyin's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were both shocked and pleasantly surprised. Jiang Wenyin spoke very sincerely and could not find any problems. If it was true, they would naturally be very happy. Chapter 5287. My apologies for disturbing you today. I'll take my leave now. I hope that you can feel my sincerity the next time we meet. Jiang Wenyin didn't stay for long. He understood that anyone would have to think carefully about his rash visit. As a young master, no one was easy to deal with. Building trust wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. As Jiang Wenyin left, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other with complicated feelings. Beichun, do you think Jiang Wenyin's words are trustworthy? Di Beichun didn't answer. Instead, he looked out of the window and said, at least he didn't lie to us about Shi Hongqiao. Master, I think this Jiang Wenyin seems quite nice. It'd be nice if we could make more friends. Xiao He looked at Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion. She felt that the atmosphere between her two masters was a bit too heavy. If he really wants to be friends with us, that's good. However, he's too smart. He only glanced out of the window casually and already guessed all our plans. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was low. When dealing with someone who is too smart, they should either make him one of their own or keep him at a respectful distance. If he was an enemy, then he must be killed as soon as possible. As for Jiang Wenyin, they had to figure out whether he was an enemy or a friend. I agree with you. This Jiang Wenyin is very smart. Di Beichun nodded slightly. It said that the head of the Jiang family was originally his elder brother. Later on, it fell into his hands for some reason. Looking at it now, this result isn't strange at all. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. He's so smart. Naturally, his methods aren't comparable to others. However, the head of the Jiang family, making him the young master, is indeed a wise decision. Beichun, how's the relationship between your family and the Jiang family? This was the most important basis for their judgment. As far as I know, our family doesn't have much contact with the Jiang family. We don't have much interaction, so there shouldn't be any conflicts. Di Beichun had a thoughtful look in his eyes. He had gained a better understanding of his family's situation after his return, but there were still many things that he wasn't very clear about. Since the Jiang family didn't have much contact with them, he didn't pay too much attention to it. There's no need to rush this matter. When Father and the others arrive, we'll naturally know. If we can really become friends, that would be a good thing. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Until now, she didn't have any ill feelings towards Jiang Wenyin. Moreover, a smart friend would be of great help to them. Let's not talk about that for now. The most important thing for us now is to understand Shi Hongqiao. Di Beichun's eyes were deep and serene. Everything else could be put aside for now. The most important thing now was to understand the Holy Light Assembly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head and smiled faintly. Indeed, the night was dark and deep. When Shi Hongqiao returned to the house, he had just opened the door when a hand had already restrained him. "Who's there?" Shi Hongqiao shouted in horror. "I've already given you the position of deacon. What are you still dissatisfied with? Don't tell me you want to put me to death?" His roar was filled with anger and hysteria. Shi Hongqiao resisted with all his might and even wanted to perish together with the other party. Chapter 5288. Just as Shi Hongqiao was struggling with all his might, the candles in the room were lit. Shi Hongqiao looked at the two unfamiliar figures in front of him and narrowed his eyes. His expression was ferocious and furious. "Is there no one else in the Xiao family? They actually sent you two little fellows to deal with me?" In the next moment, Shi Hongqiao moved his body and quickly broke free from Di Beichen's grip. "If you want to deal with me with this little trick, it's not enough." Seeing how agile Shi Hongqiao was, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were not surprised. Since Shi Hongqiao had the ability to become a deacon of the Holy Assembly, his strength was naturally not to be underestimated. If he was easily subdued by them, it proved that the information they received was wrong. "Deacon Shi, you've misunderstood. We're not from the Xiao family." "Not from the Xiao family?" Shi Hongqiao chuckled. "Do you think I'll believe you? Now only your Xiao family wants to deal with me. I'll kill you first and collect some interest." A surging murderous aura exploded, and Shi Hongqiao's attack arrived in the blink of an eye. However, in the face of such an attack, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were rather calm, because Di Beichen only stretched out his hand and restrained Shi Hongqiao once again. Shi Hongqiao's eyes widened. "You poison me?" He could clearly feel that he could not use his strength. Logically speaking, with his cultivation and strength, it was extremely difficult to poison him. However, he did not notice it before. It must have been quietly poisoned when he was first restrained in the room. "Deacon Shi, calm down first," Di Beichen said slowly. "We're indeed not from the Xiao family. As for why we're here today, it's because we have a business deal to discuss with you." Di Beichen pulled a chair and let Shi Hongqiao sit down. Only then did he and Bailey Hongzhuang casually sit down on the other side. Shi Hongqiao knew that he was not a match for these two in his current situation, so he simply stopped struggling. "The way you're acting, it doesn't seem like you're here to discuss business with me. If we don't use this method, I'm sure Deacon Shi won't be willing to talk to us. This is just a means." Di Beichen's expression was indifferent. He did not feel that his method of negotiating with the other party was overboard. "Deacon Shi, since you're a deacon of the Radiant Sacred Assembly, I'm sure you know everything about the Radiant Sacred Assembly. We have some questions for you." Hearing this, Shi Hongqiao's expression changed slightly. He frowned and stared at the two young men in front of him. "Are you really not from the Xiao clan?" "Of course not." "Then why are you asking about the Holy Light Assembly?" Shi Hongqiao's eyes were gloomy. "We want to know the requirements to become the Saintess of the Light," Di Beichen said with a burning gaze. When Shi Hongqiao heard this question, the doubts in his heart deepened. Logically speaking, it was useless for others to know about this. If our guess is correct, Xiao Shou has never been able to become the true Holy Maiden of Light, not because the time was not right, but because she lacks something. Now that she suddenly has the qualifications, we want to know the reason behind this. "Why should I tell you?" Shi Hongqiao stared at the two people in front of him. At this moment, he actually relaxed a little. At least, he was sure that these two people were indeed not from the Xiao clan. They even had a grudge against the Xiao clan. Chapter 5289. It's true that I don't like the Xiao family, but that doesn't mean that I will betray the Holy Light Assembly. Shi Hongqiao looked serious. He was a member of the Holy Light Assembly. Even if he was bitterly disappointed in the current situation and hated the Xiao family, he could not let the president down. "We didn't ask you to betray the Holy Light Assembly. As long as you tell us what we want to know, you will definitely receive a satisfactory reward," Di Beichen said calmly. "Of course, your life is also in our hands. A few insignificant questions in your life. I believe that this should be an easy choice." Hearing this, Shi Hongqiao's expression changed slightly. Indeed, his life was still in the hands of these two people. Why do you want to know these questions? Don't tell me that you want to stop Xiao Shou from becoming the Holy Light Assembly? Shi Hongqiao sneered. At this time, everything was already done. No one could stop it. Moreover, what good would it do to stop Xiao Shou from becoming the Holy Light Assembly? All these years, she had been carrying this title. In fact, it was just a ceremony away. However, when he noticed that the two people in front of him did not seem to be joking, he suddenly felt that he had guessed their purpose. How could this be? They actually wanted to stop Xiao Shou from becoming the Holy Light Assembly? Suddenly, Shi Hongqiao's expression changed. Are you guys from the D family? You talk too much nonsense. Di Beichen's expression darkened. This guy had been talking nonsense since he was restrained. If you don't tell us, we can kill you directly and then find the target. After all, you're not the only one who knows about this. The D family is the most disadvantageous for Xiao Shou to become the Holy Light Assembly. Needless to say, you guys are from the D family, right? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed slightly. Although this guy was telling the truth, he had already decided on this point. It seemed that they couldn't keep this guy alive. Just as she was thinking about getting rid of him, Shi Hongqiao's attitude suddenly softened. Since that's the case, I'll tell you. Xiao Shou was originally unable to become the true Saintess of the Light because she was unable to make the Saintess crystal light up. Seeing the sudden change in Shi Hongqiao's attitude, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen felt a little strange, but they were quickly attracted by his words. Saintess crystal? Not bad. Shi Hongqiao nodded. If you want to become the Holy Maiden, you have to light up the Holy Maiden crystal. Otherwise, you won't succeed. Previously, Xiao Shou was always a hair's breadth away. But this time, she obtained a decent harvest in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, which allowed her to light up the Holy Maiden crystal. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. As expected, it was because of the gains he had made in the Divine Cloud's secret realm. It seemed that this was the effect of the Holy Tablet of Light. What are the requirements to light up the Saintess crystal? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. If you want to light up the Saintess crystal, you need to have an extremely pure light attribute talent. Apart from that, you also need to have an extremely high understanding of the power of light. Back then, Xiao Shou was always a hair's breadth away because her talent was still a little lacking. Actually, this was also due to the fact that the Xiao family had an inheritance that was very helpful for light attribute cultivators. However, they had tried all kinds of methods but still could not let Xiao Shou succeed. So, all these years, she had been carrying this title. Chapter 5290. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but look at Di Beichen when she heard the requirements to become the Saintess of the Light Palace. She seemed to meet all the requirements. Di Beichen understood her thoughts, and his magnetic voice sounded again. Are there no other people who can meet these requirements? The light attribute is a rare attribute. Among all the cultivators, the light and dark attributes are the rarest. As for the talent to reach 100%, there is not even one in a million. All these years, the Holy Light Assembly has been looking for cultivators who meet the requirements to become the Saintess of the Light Palace. As long as there are more outstanding cultivators, they would be brought to the Holy Light headquarters to see if they meet the requirements. However, they have never succeeded, until Xiao Shou appeared. She is the only cultivator who meets the requirements. Shi Hongqiao looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Actually, when Xiao Shou first arrived, she did not hold this title. However, Vice President Tong Yinshu is her master. All these years, she has been thinking of ways to help Xiao Shou meet the requirements. Initially, Xiao Shou still had a big gap. After all these years, this gap has been shrinking. This time, she is finally able to light up the crystal. Then, in the days when Xiao Shou is the next Saintess of the Light Palace, are there any other cultivators who have tried to light up the Saintess crystal? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. No. Shi Hongqiao shook his head. The Piercing Wind City is very close to the Xiao family. Most of the cultivators who appear here are from the Xiao family. In addition, The Shao family has been eyeing this position for a long time. Who would dare to try? It's a small matter if they can't light up the Saint's crystal. If they lose their lives, that would be really not worth it. At the end of his sentence, Shi Hongqiao's words had a hint of sarcasm. Bailey Hongzhuang understood that the Shao family would not let anyone who was a threat to Shao Soa live. However, based on what they had learned so far, it was good news for them because it gave them a lot of hope. As long as the Holy Maiden of Light did not belong to the Shao clan, it would be much easier for her to snatch her away. Why are you suddenly willing to tell us now? Di Beichun narrowed his eyes and shot a penetrating look at Shi Hongqiao, as if he could see right through his heart. Shi Hongqiao and Di Beichun looked at each other for a moment and suddenly laughed. The head of the Di family saved my life many years ago. I've always been grateful to him, but I never had the chance. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were both stunned. They did not expect this to happen. Back then, the head of the Di family had been looking for his lost child. He made many friends and helped many people. I happened to be one of the people he helped. If it wasn't for him, I would have died long ago. Naturally, I wouldn't be where I am now. All these years, I've wanted to repay him. However, compared to my status as the head of the Di family, I'm afraid I can't do much. Since I have the chance now, I'm more than happy to help. Seeing this, Di Beichun secretly gave a look to Bailey Hongzhuang, and she immediately took out the antidote and handed it to Shi Hongqiao. This is the antidote. Looking at the antidote in front of him, Shi Hongqiao did not doubt it and immediately swallowed it. Chapter 5291. If Shi Hongqiao were to make a move, they would definitely make a move immediately. However, such a situation did not happen. After Shi Hongqiao realized that he could control his own strength again, he relaxed and a smile appeared on his face. If I'm not wrong, the two of you should be young Master D and young Madam D, right? Shi Hongqiao's lips curled up. Although it was a question, his tone was certain. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun did not deny it. Those who could become deacons were either capable or smart people. Shi Hongqiao had been in the Holy Assembly for so many years and was very familiar with the situation of the big families. It was not strange for him to guess this. After all, everyone knew that the Di family was at a disadvantage when the Shao family and the Jun family joined forces. I've heard rumors about you. Many people say that your talent and comprehension of the light attribute is stronger than Shao Soa. Although I have not seen it with my own eyes, I believe that it is not baseless. If possible, I really hope that the position of Holy Maiden will fall into your hands. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. According to what you said, the Shao family is now in control of the Holy Assembly. It would be very difficult to snatch this position, right? That might not be the case. Shi Hongqiao's face darkened. The Shao family is in control of the sky, and there are naturally people who are dissatisfied. However, ever since Shao Soa was able to light up the Saint's crystal, coupled with their marriage alliance with the Jun family, their behavior had become more and more arrogant. If it was not for the fact that they could not find a chance to overthrow them, I believe that many people would not swallow their anger. Shi Hongqiao's eyes flashed with a malicious light. The Shao family has been arrogant in the piercing Wind City for so long. It's time for them to retreat. If the entire Holy Assembly were to become the Shao family's people, wouldn't it become a joke? Looking at Shi Hongqiao's resentful look, Bailey Hongzhuang understood that this person really hated the Shao family. This kind of hatred that came from the bottom of his heart was not something that could be easily faked. It seemed like the rumor that the piercing Wind City belonged to the Shao family had caused many people to be dissatisfied with it. Deacon Shi, according to you, Tong Yinshu has always been supporting Bailey Hongzhuang. Then, what about the president himself? Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. If both the president and the vice president had such an attitude, then this matter would be somewhat troublesome. Even if she could also light up the Saint's crystal, no one in the Holy Assembly was willing to support her. Even if she succeeded, her days would not be easy. The president is a very fair person. What he cares about the most is the development of the Holy Light Assembly. He won't deliberately side with one side. All these years, the president has been doing his best for the Holy Light Assembly. He has also been looking for a suitable candidate to become the Holy Maiden of Light. Sure, Hongqiao was a smart person. He immediately understood Bailey Hongzhuang's concern. If Miss Bailey can really light up the Holy Maiden crystal, then you can leave the matter of having people in the Holy Assembly support you. Sure, Hongqiao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a burning gaze. His voice was filled with determination. I don't want any reward. I just don't want to see the Shao family continue to be arrogant. No. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her hand. Sure, Hongqiao was slightly stunned. The resentful light in his eyes slowly dimmed. Chapter 5292. If it was so easy to light up the crystal, the Holy Light Assembly would not have been unable to find the next Holy Maiden for the past hundreds of years. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's next words made sure Hongqiao's dim eyes shine brightly. If I become the Holy Maiden of the Holy Light Assembly, I will definitely make whoever snatched your position return it to me. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and smiled proudly. She was also unhappy with the Shao family's attitude. As long as Sure Hongqiao wholeheartedly helped them, she would naturally not treat him badly. Do you really have this intention? Sure Hongqiao stared at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. His usually calm face was now filled with excitement and excitement. This was something that he had been dreaming of all this time. Ever since the Shao family had been pressuring him step by step, he had been wishing that someone would appear and snatch away Shao Sou's position as the Holy Maiden of the Holy Light Assembly. He wanted to see how the Shao family could continue to be so arrogant. However, he was very clear that the probability of this happening was too small. However, this opportunity had actually appeared and landed directly on his head. How could he not be pleasantly surprised? Of course, Di Beichen nodded. This is our purpose for coming to the Piercing Wind City this time. Then how can you be sure that you have the ability to light up the Holy Maiden's crystal? That is not an easy task. After the excitement, Sure Hongqiao calmed down. As a member of the Holy Light Assembly, he knew very well how difficult it was to achieve this. At least from a few aspects that you have mentioned, I am not weaker than Shao Sou at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's exquisite face was filled with confidence. Her gaze was firm and filled with her usual pride. Her master was the real Holy Maiden of the Holy Light Assembly, and she was the disciple of the Holy Maiden of the Holy Light Assembly. She did not think that she was weaker than Shao Sou in this aspect. Deacon Sure, you can rest assured and trust us, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. With our status, if we didn't have enough confidence, we wouldn't take such a risk in front of so many people. If the first half of the sentence was not enough to make sure Hongqiao believe it, then the second half of the sentence made him completely at ease. In any case, I'm already in this state. Even if I fail, it won't affect me at all. I'll fight it out with you. Sure, Hongqiao's eyes were filled with madness. He had suffered so many blows in recent days, and the humiliation he endured every day made him want to explode. Now that there was such an opportunity in front of him, he naturally wouldn't miss it. Even if he really failed, so what? How bad could it be? As long as he could make the Shao family unhappy, that would be the most satisfying thing for him. The most troublesome thing now is how to give my wife a chance to light up the Saintess crystal on the day of the Saintess succession ceremony. Di Beichen frowned. Only by proving this point could they pose a threat to Shao Sou's position. Otherwise, no one would believe them just by relying on their eloquence. They would only think that they were here to cause trouble. Don't worry, Shao Sou will personally light up the crystal for everyone to see during the ceremony. Sure, Hongqiao's face lit up with a smile. When the time comes, if you appear, I will rope in others to support you. Under the eyes of so many people, they won't be able to refuse. That's great. Chapter 5293. That night, when Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen left, it was already very late. The three of them discussed many specific details and situations together. Through Sure Hongqiao's introduction, the two of them also understood a lot about the process of the succession ceremony. They were no longer completely clueless like before. There was no doubt that they had gained a lot from that night. If everything went according to plan, the success rate would be extremely high. Not only them, but Shi Hongqiao was also very excited. Just thinking about it made him feel like his blood was about to boil. If everything could come true, then he did not care about anything else. After all, a person's life was all about fighting for one's pride. If he was constantly being suppressed and humiliated without being able to fight back, then what was the point of living? What he wanted was to see the Xiao family's pale faces. It seems that Jiang Wenyan's favor is really not small. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. However, father saved Deacon Shi before. Jiang Wenyan should not know about this. Judging from Jiang Wenyan and my father's age, Jiang Wenyan should not know about it. Di Beichen pondered and said, based on the current situation, the chances of us succeeding are very high. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, and according to Shi Hongqiao, when succeeding the position of the Holy Maiden of Light, the Holy Maiden's prayer will increase the power of light again. Therefore, we must not give this opportunity to Xiao Shou. She was also a woman who held grudges. She would not allow anyone who wanted to harm her to have a chance to develop. Deep Beichun nodded slightly. The Holy Maiden of Light will definitely be yours. Shi Hongqiao should be very busy during this period of time. However, he has been in the Holy Assembly for so many years, so he must have some tricks up his sleeve. He should be very secretive and will not be easily discovered. Let's keep a low profile during this period of time and not be noticed by others. In a few days, Big Brother and the others will be here. Di Beichun held Bailey Hongzhuang's soft hand. Under the night light, their shadows were elongated as they snuggled together, exuding a sweet taste. The weather had begun to turn cold. Bailey Hongzhuang's hands were already cold, but after being enveloped by Di Beichun's broad and warm palms, a warmth spread from her palms to her heart. Fortunately, no matter when, Di Beichun was always by her side. The feeling of two people working hard for the same goal was also very good. For the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and Gu Riyun stayed in the restaurant. Bailey Hongzhuang spent most of her time cultivating and comprehending the power of light. The radiant sacred steel was in the chaos ring. Although she had comprehended it for a while and obtained the inheritance, she had only comprehended a little of the laws on the radiant sacred steel. Therefore, as long as she had time, she would come over to comprehend it seriously. The radiant sacred steel was a great gift from her master for a treasure like it to fall into her hands. With such an opportunity, if she still could not surpass others in terms of comprehension, then she would have let down her master. While Bailey Hongzhuang was comprehending in peace, Di Beichun was not idle either. He was also comprehending the darkness sacred steel. Ever since the last successful summoning, he had understood the great power of darkness. If he could comprehend more, his methods would be even more powerful in the future. Chapter 5294. As the date of the succession ceremony drew closer, the piercing wind city became more and more lively as various forces rushed over. The Holy Light Assembly was the most influential guild in the upper realm. Now that such a big event had happened, the various forces would definitely give them face. Not only that, the Alchemist Guild, the Inscription Association, and various other large guilds had also sent people over. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun came out of the house, they realized that the entire restaurant was already full. Fortunately, the two of them had already reserved a table and were still seated by the window. This seat had an excellent view, and from here, they could clearly see the situation on the street. Xiao Shou had been in a good mood recently. To be precise, ever since she had finally lit up the Holy Lady Crystal, her mood had been extremely good. All these years, she had been working hard for this point, but she had always been lacking by a hair's breadth. Others did not know how frustrated and tangled she was because of this one hair's breadth. All these years, they had used all kinds of methods, but had never succeeded. Ever since she knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's light attribute talent was so shocking, she was so anxious that she could not sleep. Fortunately, this position would eventually belong to her, and no one would be able to take it away from her. Not only that, she was now engaged to Jun Lingxuan, and everything was going as she had expected. It was really excellent. These few days More and more forces have arrived at the piercing wind city. Xiao Sou's lips curled up slightly. These people were all here to watch her succession ceremony. By then, she would have limitless glory. Jun Lingxuan nodded slightly. It's only half a month before your succession ceremony. All the major forces have either arrived or are on their way. Do you think Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest will be here? Xiao Sou's eyebrows raised slightly as her eyes revealed a sense of satisfaction. Previously, she was most worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would come to the Holy Assembly. Now, the situation was the complete opposite. She couldn't wait for Bailey Hongzhuang to witness her success. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan couldn't help but think of that stunning white figure. The image of Bailey Hongzhuang was deeply ingrained in his heart and was unforgettable. I don't know, but they will definitely come. I wonder what Bailey Hongzhuang's expression will be when she hears the news. Xiao Sou smirked, but her eyes were full of malice and viciousness. Although she didn't say it clearly before, I'm afraid she has already decided that the position of the Holy Maiden of Light will be hers. However, she must be dreaming. Is it really so easy to get this position? Jun Lingxuan turned his eyes and saw the malice and hatred in Xiao Sou's eyes. He couldn't help but frown slightly. I don't think so. If Bailey Hongzhuang really thinks so, she would have already come to the Holy Assembly. That means she still has some self-awareness and didn't ask to be humiliated. Otherwise, it would be a joke if she came. Xiao Sou scoffed coldly. She would never allow anyone to snatch away what was hers. Jun Lingxuan didn't say anything. Xiao Sou couldn't help but frown. Do you think I'm wrong? Before Jun Lingxuan could speak, someone interrupted their conversation. Eldest Miss Xiao, congratulations. Holy Maiden of Light, you're really amazing. You're indeed the glory of the Xiao family. Chapter 5295. Xiao Seiwu was all smiles as she faced everyone's congratulations. Her delicate and pretty face was blooming with a bright radiance. She was truly radiant and radiant. Bailey Hongzhuang was sitting by the window and coincidentally saw this scene. Her lips curled into a mocking smile as she said, Xiao Sou, you can laugh as much as you want now. After a while, I'm afraid you won't be able to laugh anymore. Master, I want to go out for a walk. Ling Er's voice suddenly rang out. Ever since I came out from the historical remains, I haven't been to such a lively place. I want to go out and take a look. Previously, she had not been able to regain her memories and was immersed in frustration all day long. Hence, she was not interested in these things. However, it was different now. She had already accepted many things. Furthermore, she had been staying in the same place for so many years. In fact, she was bored out of her wits. Now that the piercing wind city was so lively, she wanted to take a look around. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, All right, you just have to be careful when you go out. Don't worry, what can happen to me? Linger smiled faintly. Bailey Yin-che also came out from the chaos ring and said, Sister, I also want to take the opportunity to go out and take a look. In the past, when he was by his sister's side, he was in the form of a beast. Since he was in his human form now, he wanted to experience it. Both of you can go together. No. Ling, and Bailey Yin-che said in unison. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but look at the two of them and asked, Didn't both of you reconcile previously? That was because the situation forced us to. Ling glared fiercely at Bailey Yin-che and said, It's better for us to go our separate ways. As long as both of you are happy. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. However, before you go out, you have to bring this with you. In the next moment, 2 Qingquan bags landed in the hands of both of them. There are some spirit stones inside. If you like anything, you can buy it. Both of you should buy some clothes. Whether it was Ling or Bailey Yin-che, their clothes did not belong to them. Instead, they belonged to Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Previously, they did not really come out, so they just wore them casually. Since both of them were going out, it was a good idea to buy some things that they liked. Ling looked at the Qingquan bag in her hand and hung it on her waist in the next moment. An elegant smile appeared on her elegant face. Thank you. Sister, brother-in-law, I'll leave. Let's go out. Also, Beichun. Also, you. According to their estimations, Di Xiaofeng and the others should be here in 2 days. Now, the entire Piercing Wind City was very lively. Most importantly, she was very interested in a place. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's expectant face, Di Beichun nodded his head dotingly. Wherever my wife wants to go. Hee hee. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and pulled Di Beichun's hand as they walked out of the house. I heard that there is an Inscription Masters Association in the Piercing Wind City. Previously, when I was in the lower realm, I didn't meet many Inscription Masters. Since there is an Inscription Masters Association here, I naturally have to go and take a look. She had never given up on inscription techniques. A good inscription was very useful. Now, she wanted to understand the difference between the upper realm and the lower realm. Chapter 5296. This time, the two of them had already removed their disguises when they left the house. At this time, most of the forces had already arrived, so there was no need for them to continue hiding their identities. When they were in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, there were many people who were familiar with them. If they were to be recognized by others now, they would be at a disadvantage. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun appeared on the streets of the Piercing Wind City, they quickly attracted the attention of the crowd. Not to mention that the appearance of the two was outstanding. People couldn't take their eyes off them when they appeared. The most important thing was that since the news that Xiaosei Wu was about to become the real saint of light spread, Bailey Hongzhuang was compared to her. Look, isn't that Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang? They are indeed here. This is going to be interesting. I originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had the intention to fight for the position of the Holy Maiden of the Light World. I don't think so. In the Xianyun's secret territory, although Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was very outstanding, from beginning to end, she did not show any interest in the position of the Holy Maiden of Light. If you can see through everything, how amazing would that be? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were extremely calm in the face of the crowd's discussion. This situation was within their expectations and was very normal. The two of them originally wanted to head directly to the Inscription Masters Guild. However, when they passed by the Piercing Wind City's underground market, Bailey Hongzhuang was instantly interested. Although she might not be able to find a treasure that was suitable for her, she still needed to search for it carefully. Once she found it, she would have profited greatly. Thinking back to the time when she was in the underground market of Water Chi City, she had gained quite a lot. I'm afraid Yi and the rest are not here yet. Otherwise, she would be very interested in the underground market. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Di Beichun smiled. Yi has always been going wherever there is a lot of excitement. She should be here in a few days. As the two of them walked into the underground market, sure enough, there was a lively scene inside. As far as the eye could see, there were stalls with many treasures on display. However, there were even more cultivators who came to pick out treasures. Such a lively scene would only appear when a grand event happened. However, before the two of them could choose their treasures, their gazes were attracted by a clamor. It's your fortune that I've taken a liking to you. Xiao Zhengliang was now flushed with success. He could make a lot of money by strolling around the underground market. However, he didn't expect to see a beauty here today. His eyes lit up instantly. His wife was old and weak and was not worthy of his current status. He had already planned to marry someone else. However, he was also a person with requirements. Even if many women threw themselves at him, he still insisted on finding someone he liked. The woman in front of him made his eyes light up at first glance, and he was mesmerized by her. Get out of my way. The cold voice was filled with undisguised disgust. Such a huge commotion instantly attracted the attention of many people. Everyone stopped to watch. Isn't that Deacon Xiao of the Radiant Sacred Assembly? I heard that he had snatched Deacon Shi's position. Now, he is in the limelight. Who asked him to be a member of the Xiao family? Xiao Sou is about to become the Holy Maiden of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Her status is no less than the president of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Isn't it easy to support him? Chapter 5297. Listening to the discussion of the onlookers in front, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but have a trace of sarcasm in her eyes. I didn't expect that we would see Deacon Xiao so soon. This Deacon Xiao seems to be very high profile. He dares to do such a thing at such a time when he is the focus of attention. Deep Beichun shook his head. Originally, he thought that this guy should have some ability since the Xiao family supported a deacon so strongly. However, from the fact that he dared to flirt with a beauty in broad daylight, this person was no longer a concern. Even though the Xiao family was very popular now and Xiao So had supreme power in the Holy Assembly, more people paid attention to it at such a time. What's more, now that all the forces were here, even the slightest thing would attract everyone's attention. This kind of thing was the topic of everyone's leisure time. In the blink of an eye, it would quickly spread to the ears of all the forces. It was really stupid. However, don't you think that beauty's voice is a bit familiar? Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a helpless expression. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Beichen and then was slightly stunned. Could it be? Di Beichen nodded. Yes, it is. Bailey Hongzhuang was dumbfounded. Ling is really charming. Haoan also fell in love with her at first sight. She has only been out for a while, and someone is eyeing her again. Linger is beautiful. It's normal for people to take a fancy to her when she comes in and out of such places. Di Beichen chuckled. If everyone didn't know that you were my wife, there would be countless wild bees and butterflies around you now. Thinking of this, Di Beichen was a little proud. Fortunately, he had declared his sovereignty early. Otherwise, these guys would really have a headache. Bailey Hongzhuang, who originally wanted to stand up for Linger, couldn't help but laugh when she heard Di Beichen's words. The usually unfathomable Beichen's reaction was extremely cute when he encountered such a situation. She couldn't help but recall the matter with Chu Yingming. However, her fate was still a bit. Let's go teach that Deacon Xiao a lesson. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. Anyone who dared to touch her people was courting death. She didn't care about Xiao Zhengliang's position in the Holy Assembly. She didn't even care about Xiao so why would she care about a mere deacon? However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to make a move, Di Beichen suddenly pulled her back. Beichen. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen in confusion, not knowing what he was going to do. Don't worry. Di Beichen gave her a look. Someone has already made a move. Looking in the direction Di Beichen was pointing, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that Jiang Wenyan had unknowingly walked to Linger's side. Jiang Wenyan was wearing a beige robe today. His handsome face was still rippling with a gentle smile like a spring breeze. The image of a modest young master was deeply etched in people's hearts. Deacon Xiao, this lady obviously has no interest in you. Your actions have already caused a disturbance to this lady. I think it's better for you to apologize to this lady. His pursuit of a beauty was suddenly interrupted, and Xiao Zhengliang was also unhappy. One had to know that there were quite a number of ladies who had thrown themselves at him recently. He didn't believe that this lady would really reject him. She was just playing hard to get. Now, in the entire Piercing Wind City, who wouldn't be willing to follow him if they knew his identity? Chapter 5298. When the surrounding crowd heard Xiao Zhengliang say such a thing to Jiang Wenyan, their faces were filled with astonishment. Deacon Xiao must have put all his attention on the beauty. He didn't even recognize the young master of the Jiang family, Jiang Wenyan. Jiang Wenyan only became the young master of the Jiang family 2 years ago. It's not strange that many people don't know about him. Do you think that young Master Jiang suddenly came to save the damsel in distress because he has taken a liking to this beauty? Everyone was especially interested in the matters of heroes and beauties. Bailey Hongzhuang stood at the periphery of the crowd. After seeing this scene, her eyebrows rose slightly. Jiang Wenyan actually came out. He seems to like to draw his sword and help others. Perhaps he has fallen for Linger. Di Beichen chuckled. Previously, Jiang Wenyan always looked invulnerable. I thought that he was really pure and simple. Now, it seems that he's much more normal. He has fallen for Ling? Bailey Hongzhuang was astonished. If she remembered correctly, this should be Jiang Wenyan's first time meeting Linger. Perhaps he doesn't like her, but at least he has a good impression of her. Di Beichen smiled mysteriously. As a man, he understood a man's gaze the best. As a member of the Beast clan, Ling had a unique charm after transforming into her human form. Most importantly, someone like Jiang Wenyin, who looked pure and simple, would easily notice an elegant woman like Ling. I'm Jiang Wenyin. Jiang Wenyin did not show any anger because of Xiao Zhongliang's rude words. His calm demeanor did not reveal any emotion. However, Xiao Zhongliang's expression changed when he heard the name. Young master of the Jiang family? That's me. Hearing that, Xiao Zhongliang felt his legs turn to jelly. Although he was now a deacon of the Holy Light Assembly, he could not afford to pay the price of angering the young master of an aristocratic family. He should have known that since this fellow dared to come over despite knowing his identity, his status must not be low. However, generally speaking, the young masters of aristocratic families would not be polite when speaking at such time. Who would have thought that the young master of the Jiang family would be so humble and polite? It was completely beyond his expectations, so he treated him with the same attitude just now. So it's young Lord Jiang. After being stunned for a moment, Xiao Zhongliang's face quickly revealed a flattering smile. I didn't know it was young Lord Jiang, so I offended you. I'm really sorry. Jiang Wenyin shook his head. You didn't offend me. You offended this lady. Xiao Zhongliang looked at Ling, and then at Jiang Wenyin. He understood what was going on. It seemed that Jiang Wenyin had taken a liking to Ling. Otherwise, he would not have stood up for her. Thinking of this, Xiao Zhongliang also felt a burst of unwillingness in his heart. It was not easy for him to meet such a beauty that he liked, but he did not expect that he would have to give her away. How could he not be depressed? Miss, I'm sorry. Linger looked disdainfully at Xiao Zhongliang. This fellow was really disgusting. Just an apology is enough? Just then, another devilish voice was heard. Hearing this voice, everyone turned their heads, wondering who it was that had stood up at such a time. Following the direction of the voice, a handsome purple figure appeared in everyone's line of sight. Chapter 5299. The young master was unparalleled in this world. If one were to say that there was an unforgettable person in this world, the crowd would not doubt that the purple-robed man in front of them was that person. His chiseled features were handsome, and every inch of his face seemed to have been meticulously carved by the heavens. Every part of him was impeccably beautiful. His violet eyes sparkled like gemstones. His long silver hair complemented his fair and dazzling face. He was simply an evildoer. Heavens, whose young master is this? He's just too handsome. I can't take it anymore. This is the man of my dreams. I want to marry him. The women's eyes were filled with love. Such a handsome man was simply too rare. Most importantly, this kind of exotic scenery was simply too attractive. When Jiang Wenyin saw the newcomer, he could not help but feel shocked. This man's bearing was extraordinary. Logically speaking, he should not be an ordinary person. However, he had never seen this person before. Could he be a rising star from some organization? Ling could not help but roll her eyes when she saw Bali Yin Che. This fellow's appearance had caused an even greater sensation than her own. Most importantly, this fellow was even more good-looking than a woman. He was simply too much of a demon. Xiao Zhongliang looked at the newcomer. His mood was already very bad. He could not compare to the young master of the Jiang family, so he could only swallow his anger. However, if this fellow who had appeared again was not an extraordinary person, he would not be able to control his anger. However, when he saw Bali Yin Che's figure, the anger in his eyes dissipated completely. Needless to say, this person was definitely not simple. At that moment, Xiao Zhongliang's expression was complicated. He did not know what kind of bad luck he had run into today. He had only seen a woman he admired. How did he end up offending two organizations for no apparent reason? This was not something he wanted to see. Sir, who are you? Xiao Zhongliang probed. He had to find out the other party's true identity first. However, Bali Yin Che ignored him and walked towards Linger's side. His handsome face was filled with exasperation. You really know how to cause trouble. Hearing this, Linger couldn't help but reveal a look of dissatisfaction. Are you blaming me for this? After she bought a few sets of clothes at the cloth store, she heard people talking about the many treasures in the underground market. She decided to come and take a look. Who would have thought that he would be targeted by Xiao Zhengliang not long after arriving here? This guy was like an annoying fly that couldn't be shaken off. Most importantly, this guy thought that he had power and influence, so he thought that she was playing hard to get. She was about to die from anger. Who should I blame if not you? Bali Yin-che looked unhappy. I didn't want to talk to you, but now I have to clean up your mess. Even if you don't do it, I can do it myself, Ling said unhappily. Come on, don't you still have to find someone to clean up for you? Bali Yin-che glanced at Jiang Wenyin from the corner of his eyes. His meaning was obvious. Jiang Wenyin looked at Bali Yin-che and Ling Er's familiar faces and was shocked. Most importantly, he realized that Bali Yin-che and Ling were both wearing purple clothes. Could it be that these two were lovers? Jiang Wenyin was not the only one who had this thought. Everyone present had the same thought. Chapter 5300. The two of them can't be a couple, right? This is too heartbreaking. I've waited for so many years, and I've finally found the one of my dreams. Definitely not. Even if it's me, I'll break them up. Ling who was originally calm, suddenly felt numerous gazes filled with murderous intent on her back, as if they couldn't wait to tear her apart and eat her up. He turned his gaze slightly and realized that these gazes were all from the women present. He immediately rolled his eyes. He didn't expect that these people only cared about appearances and didn't know Bali Yin-che's character at all. I didn't expect Ling to also buy a purple dress. When she stands next to Yin-che, they're really not an ordinary match. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Previously, she only noticed Ling wearing this dress and didn't think much of it. Now, that Bali Yin-che was here, she only felt that the two of them were extremely compatible. Actually, they're quite compatible. Di Beichun smiled faintly. Currently, only Ling and Bali Yin-che had taken human form. If the two of them could become a couple, it would be extremely good. However, it's already good enough that the two of them don't quarrel every time they meet. Bailey Hongzhuang spread her hands and sighed. She knew very well that the two of them never stopped quarreling every day. Although the two of them are usually like enemies when they meet, at a time like this, didn't Yin-che still help Ling vent her anger? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's true. This kind of person should be taught a lesson directly. What's the point of talking so much nonsense with him? A trace of coldness appeared in Bali Yin-che's eyes. Whether it was Xiao So or the Xiao family, they all made him feel extremely disgusted. Xiao So had brought so much trouble to his sister, and the Xiao family was so arrogant. Since trouble had taken the initiative to find them, he naturally wouldn't be polite. In the next moment, Bali Yin-che directly punched out in front of everyone's shocked eyes. Xiao Zhengliang did not expect that Bali Yin-che would dare to attack him in front of so many people. Even though he had reacted in time, Bali Yin-che's fist was too fast for him to block. In the next moment, a figure was sent flying backwards, heavily smashing into the wall, and only then did he fall down. Gasps could be heard from the crowd. Everyone looked at Bali Yin-che in disbelief. No matter what, Xiao Zhengliang was still a member of the Xiao family. Now that the Xiao family was in the limelight, one had to look at the owner before beating a dog. Generally speaking, no one would choose to find trouble with the Xiao family at this time. Who would have thought that this person would not care at all? His first attack was so heavy. However, after seeing Bali Yin-che's actions, everyone was even more certain that his relationship with Ling was extraordinary. Otherwise, why would he offend the Xiao family for a woman? When Ling saw Bailey Yin-che's actions, she was a little surprised as well. However, she quickly calmed down, and there was even a trace of relief in her eyes. Previously, that damned fellow wanted to take advantage of his status to make a move on her. In fact, he almost attacked him. However, before he could do anything, Jiang Wenyin had already arrived, so he stopped. However, a simple apology from the other party was not enough to relieve his anger. As a member of the Dragon Clan, how could the price of angering her be so simple? Chapter 5301. Xiao Zhengliang spat out a mouthful of blood. He covered his mouth and realized that there were 2 teeth in his hand. He did not expect the man who appeared later to be so ruthless. Most importantly, as the Xiao family's steward, he was treated in such a manner in front of so many people. How humiliating! Who are you? How dare you treat me like this? Xiao Zhongliang roared. Even Jiang Wenyin would not do this. This fellow who appeared out of nowhere was too much. Remember this clearly. My name is Bai Li Yin Che. Bai Li Yin Che stared coldly at Xiao Zhongliang. His deep eyes were filled with murderous intent and icicles, causing Xiao Zhongliang's heart to tremble for no reason. When Bai Li Yin Che said this, many of the people present had already memorized his name in their hearts. However, everyone was unfamiliar with this name. Before this, they had never heard of Bai Li Yin Che. This person's surname is Bailey. Could he be a member of the Bailey family? That can't be. The Bailey family is only a small family. They can't even be compared to the Xiao family. He actually dared to attack Xiao Zhongliang. Isn't he asking for trouble? Everyone was familiar with the Bailey family. It was said that the Bailey family had enjoyed a period of glory many years ago. However, they gradually declined, and their influence was no longer what it used to be. In front of the Xiao family, the Bailey family had always been courteous. Who would dare to take the initiative to cause trouble? Xiao Zhongliang had thought that the other party was an extraordinary person. However, when he heard that the other party was a member of the Bailey family, the flames of anger in his heart burned brightly. Xiao Zhongliang's ferocious face was filled with rage. He shouted loudly, "Guards!" As Xiao Zhongliang's voice fell, a group of guards from the underground market rushed over. The Xiao family was currently maintaining order in the underground market. The reason why they did not make a move previously was because of Jiang Wenyin's appearance. Without Xiao Zhongliang's instructions, they did not dare to make a move. However, since Xiao Zhongliang had called for them, they rushed over immediately. Cripple him. Xiao Zhongliang's face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with a malicious and ruthless light. He had to completely cripple this guy so that everyone would know the price of offending him. Of course, he couldn't afford to offend the young master of the Jiang family. However, a mere Bailey family dared to bully him. They were simply courting death. Looking at Xiao Zhongliang's attitude, Bai Li Yin Che couldn't help but sneer. What? Since one person wasn't enough, they started to gang up on him? It just so happens that I also want to exercise today, so I'll play with you guys. Bai Li Yin Che was speaking the truth. Ever since he returned from the immortal cloud mystic realm, he had transformed into his human form and did not have many opportunities to fight. Now that he had the chance to teach this damned deacon a lesson, it was not a bad idea. After all, this guy would die sooner or later. When the crowd saw that, Bai Li Yin Che was not the least bit afraid, but was instead extremely excited. They were at a loss for words. This world had changed too much. They had not stepped out of the family for a while. So why did the situation seem to have reversed? Have you heard that Bailey Hongzhuang seems to have become the head of the Bailey family? No wonder Bai Li Yin Che dares to be so unyielding. It turns out that the Bailey family and the D family are now in the same boat. Chapter 53:02. Everyone immediately understood. So this was the reason behind it. No wonder Bailey Yin Che was so impolite when he made his move. If they were in his shoes, they would not have been so polite either. It was fine if he was his enemy, but he actually dared to tease his sweetheart. Wasn't he courting death? If he didn't have any guts, he wouldn't be a man. Just as Bailey Yin Che and Xiao Zhongliang's enemies were about to erupt into a battle, Jiang Wenyin's voice rang out again. You're right. Deacon Xiao, this underground market is under the jurisdiction of the Xiao family. Isn't it a little inappropriate for you to use the guards to settle the grudge between the four of you? Jiang Wenyin's gaze was calm as he looked on quietly. However, his attitude made Xiao Zhongliang hesitate. He originally thought that Jiang Wenyin had helped Ling because he had taken a liking to her. Now that Ling lover was here, he shouldn't have any reason to help. Why did it seem like Jiang Wenyin had no intention of leaving? Young Master Jiang, you've seen it for yourself. This kid attacked me the moment he arrived. How can I not teach him a lesson? This is a grudge between the Xiao family and the Bailey family. I hope that young Master Jiang will not interfere. Xiao Zhongliang looked at Jiang Wenyin with a complicated gaze. He didn't care about the Bailey family, but if Jiang Wenyin insisted on interfering, then this matter would be difficult to handle. From what you've said, you're going to use your power to bully others. Ling sneered. The piercing Wind City is your Xiao family's territory. So you think you can do whatever you want here? Bali Yin Che's gaze turned sinister. So this is the Xiao family's people, taking liberties with a girl in broad daylight and not allowing others to take revenge. If that's the case, any girl in the underground market that you've taken a liking to would be in trouble. You're basically robbing them. When they knew that Deacon Xiao had taken away Deacon Shi's position, they knew that this guy wasn't a good person. But now, it seemed that their thinking was still too simple. This guy was completely a bully and tyrannical master. Originally, no one thought about this, but after Ling and Bai Yin Che mentioned it, the way they looked at Xiao Zhongliang changed. Indeed, if they didn't have someone as lucky as Ling to help them, then Deacon Xiao would be able to cover the sky with one hand. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but shudder. Deacon Xiao's actions are indeed too much. Judging from the situation, he's the one in charge of this underground market. I think the Xiao clan is really arrogant. Even if Xiao Shou becomes the Holy Maiden of the Light, they shouldn't be so arrogant. Xiao Zhengliang's face turned ugly as he listened to the crowd's discussion. This was not the result he wanted. Although this was indeed the case, if word of this got out, it would have a different meaning. If the Xiao clan knew about this, they wouldn't let him off. What nonsense are you talking about? Xiao Zhengliang became serious. You're the one who started it. What's wrong with me teaching you a lesson? Men, take him down. Xiao Zhengliang signaled with his eyes. These two guys weren't easy to deal with. He had to shut their mouths as soon as possible. Otherwise, he didn't know how much trouble there would be. Chapter 53:03. Linger narrowed her eyes when she saw their actions. It seemed like these fellows wanted to die today. Jiang Wenyin's expression turned gloomy when he saw this scene. How dare a mere deacon ignore his words? He usually didn't like to get angry, but since this fellow didn't take him seriously, he no longer had his good temper. Xiao Zhongliang didn't realize that his actions had offended Jiang Wenyin. He only thought that Jiang Wenyin wouldn't interfere after he revealed his family's feud. Most importantly, his reason gave Jiang Wenyin a very good way out, and he could completely stay out of this matter. Just as Jiang Wenyin was about to make a move, Linger spoke first. Young Master Jiang, thank you for your kind intentions, but leave the rest to us. A cold smile appeared on Linger's delicate face. Her eyes were filled with ice. This fellow really thought that they were easy to bully. Jiang Wenyin was slightly taken aback. In his heart, he also understood that Ling was really angry. However, he didn't know what would happen when Linger, who looked so otherworldly, made a move. Bai Yin Che's lips suddenly curled into a dazzling and evil smile. It seemed like he and Linger were surprisingly in agreement on this point. In the next moment, the two of them flashed and attacked the guard around them at lightning speed. Bang! 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 The sound of fists and feet colliding instantly resounded. The guard were rather strong, with all of them being at the Starlight Realm. Everyone thought that Bai Yin Che and Jiang Wenyin would be courting death if they were to deal with the guards with their strength alone. However, what happened next was completely out of everyone's expectations. Bai Yin Che only threw a punch, and the other party immediately bent over like a cooked shrimp curled up. Their faces were flushed red, as if they had suffered an unbearable blow. Most importantly, everyone realized that Bai Yin Che was simply a monster with abnormal strength. His battle prowess was incomparably shocking. Anyone who was hit by his attack was directly sent flying or beaten into a pile of minced meat. They fell limply to the ground, unable to fight back. After the guards saw how abnormal Bai Yin Che was, they all turned their target to Ling. As long as they could subdue one of them, the situation would be under control. Unfortunately, their wishful thinking was still wrong. This was because this woman's hands looked slender, but the degree of violence when she attacked was no weaker than Bai Yin Che. Her attacks were extremely terrifying. Compared to Bai Yin Che, she was more proficient in speed. Her attacks arrived in the blink of an eye, and with one move, her opponents were unable to fight back. Everyone looked at each other when they saw this. This situation was far too unexpected. Jiang Wenyan looked at Ling Er in surprise. When Bai Li Yinshe beat up Xiao Zhongliang earlier, he already knew that Bai Li Yinshe was not weak. However, he did not expect Ling Er to be so strong as well. Although he could not see her true strength from her punches and kicks, she was at least at the nebula realm. Otherwise, she would not have been able to deal with the guards so easily. Xiao Zhongliang was also dumbfounded. He did not expect the guards, who were usually extremely strong, to be like tofu in front of the two of them. They could be easily crushed. What would he do if the guards were crippled? Chapter 5304. Since when did the Bailey family have such a powerful young man? His combat power is comparable to the young masters of the major clans. Do you think that Ling Er is also a member of the Bailey family? I think their combat methods are somewhat similar, but I have never heard of a cultivator from the Bailey family who is so good at strength. I have to say, this kind of battle is really fun to watch. What Xiao Zhongliang had done had already made people unhappy. Now that they saw the guards being beaten into a pile of mud, everyone was happy to see it. Xiao Sou was now in the limelight, so it was expected that the Xiao family would be arrogant. However, if they were too arrogant, everyone would not be happy to see it. One of them is a beast king, and the other is a dragon. It is also expected that they would be so violent. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. She was very familiar with Bai Li Yinshe and Ling Er's combat habits. She had already guessed that this would happen before the two of them attacked. This was really interesting. It's going to teach this Xiao Zhongliang a lesson first. This guy needs to be taught a lesson. Di Beichun looked indifferent. He was not worried from the beginning. With Bai Li Yinshe and Ling Er's strength, it was not a problem for them to deal with this. After Bai Li Yinshe and Ling Er took care of the guards, their eyes fell on Xiao Zhongliang. Feeling their threatening gazes, Xiao Zhongliang could not help but take a few steps back. What do you want to do? What do we want to do? Bai Li Yinshe sneered. Deacon Xiao, didn't you say that you wanted to cripple me? Why are you so scared now? Let me tell you, I'm a deacon of the Holy Light Assembly. If you dare to attack me, the Xiao family will not let you go. Xiao Zhongliang looked nervous. He was already thinking about how to leave this place. Revenge was a dish best served cold. As long as he informed his family, the two of them would have no choice but to surrender obediently. Are these words of any use to us? Ling Er's expression was cold. If Xiao Zhongliang was not a member of the Xiao family, they would not have acted like this. Bai Li Yinshe was too lazy to talk nonsense. He threw another punch at Xiao Zhongliang. Why do you find this guy so annoying? Bang! Xiao Zhongliang, who was already injured, was sent flying again. It was unknown if Bai Li Yinshe did it on purpose or if it was a coincidence, but Xiao Zhongliang hit the wall again and fell to the ground. It was exactly the same situation. Quick, help me inform the Xiao family. Xiao Zhongliang hurriedly shouted out to the surrounding people. These two fellas were obviously newborn calves that were not afraid of tigers. They had no intention of restraining themselves in the piercing wind city. Right now, he didn't have the slightest doubt that if no one stopped them, those two fellows might really kill him. When Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan passed by the underground market, they wanted to take a look. In fact, every time the underground market was held, there would always be people who would find some treasures. Now that this place was under their jurisdiction, it was only right for them to take a look. However, when the two of them arrived, they heard Xiao Zhongliang's anxious shout. The two of them could not help but look at each other as their expressions turned serious. There are actually people who dare to find trouble with the Xiao family in the piercing wind city. Chapter 5305. Jun Lingxuan couldn't help but look at Xiao Sou. Xiao Sou immediately said, "Let's go and take a look. The one in trouble should be Xiao Zhongliang." Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan's eyes were tinged with a trace of seriousness. He had some understanding of Xiao Zhongliang. In recent days, he knew that Xiao Sou and the others had supported Xiao Zhongliang to rise to the top. Logically speaking, at this time, no one should have dared to provoke Xiao Zhongliang, let alone in the Xiao family's territory. Both of them quickened their pace at the first moment and quickly rushed inside. "Stop!" Xiao So immediately shouted when she saw by Li Yin Che attacking Xiao Zhongliang. Jun Lingxuan also moved and quickly appeared in front of Xiao Zhongliang, blocking Bai Li Yin Che's attack. However, when he saw Bai Li Yin Che, Jun Lingxuan's pupils couldn't help but shrink slightly. This man's appearance was really monstrous. He could compete with Di Beichen. "Who are you? How dare you attack my Xiao family?" Xiao Sou's face was filled with anger as she questioned loudly. Today was the Xiao family's most glorious day. These two people's actions were tantamount to slapping their faces. This was something she absolutely couldn't tolerate. Seeing Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan appear, the crowd couldn't help but sigh. Originally, Xiao Zhongliang was almost finished. They didn't expect Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan to appear in such a timely manner. Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan are here. It seems that Bai Li Yin Che and Jun Lingxuan are in trouble. On one side was the Xiao family and the Jun family. On the other side was the Bailey family. If the Di family didn't appear in time to help, the two of them would be in danger today. After Bai Li Yin Che saw Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan, a cold light flashed across his violet eyes. However, the corners of his lips curled into a faint, mocking smile. "I was wondering who it was. So, it's the Holy Maiden of the Light who has been in the limelight recently. Her aura is indeed extraordinary." Xiao So looked at the man in front of her. Regardless of whether it was his appearance or his temperament, she didn't know why, but an indescribable feeling in her heart. She felt that something wasn't right. "You injure my Zhao's guards and try to kill my Xiao family's deacon. Are you trying to bully the Xiao family because there's no one else?" Xiao So had a ruthless expression on her face. If she allowed this fellow to bully the Xiao family in front of everyone, then where would the Xiao family's face be? "I think it's your Xiao family who's bullying others." Bai Li Yin Che sneered. "Everyone here knows very well what your Xiao family's deacon has done." Hearing this, Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan looked at each other in shock. The situation seemed to be a little different from what they had imagined. At this moment, Jiang Wenyan spoke up first. "Miss Xiao, I can testify to this matter. Your Xiao family's deacon was the one who had tried to harm this young lady. That's why this happened." As soon as he said this, Xiao So looked at Jiang Wenyan, then turned to look at Xiao Zhongliang. Her eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Xiao Zhongliang had just assumed his position. Anyone with half a brain would not cause trouble at a time like this. However, Xiao Zhongliang had actually done such a thing in front of everyone. Jun Lingxuan's expression also became strange. He didn't think that Jiang Wenyan would speak up at a time like this. There was no need for that at all. Faced with Xiao Sou's questioning gaze, Xiao Zhongliang couldn't help but lower his head guiltily. Chapter 5306. Damn it! Xiao Sou could not help but curse. She never thought that Xiao Zhongliang would actually do such a thing at a time like this. Wasn't this bringing shame to their family? Not to mention that doing such a thing usually damaged Xiao Zhongliang's image as a deacon. But now that all the major forces were gathered here, even the slightest movement would spread to the ears of all the major forces. Needless to say, today's incident would definitely spread rapidly, bringing shame to the Xiao family. Xiao Zhongliang couldn't help but shudder. He didn't expect that meeting a beauty today would cause so much trouble. If he had known, he would not have dared to do such a thing. Even though her heart was filled with anger, Xiao So also knew that now was not the time to be angry. The most important thing was to settle this matter as soon as possible. Then, Xiao So turned her gaze to Ling. When she saw Ling, even her eyes could not help but light up. She was indeed an elegant lady. No wonder Xiao Zhongliang would disregard his status and do such a thing. "Miss, I apologize on behalf of Xiao Zhongliang for what he has done to you." Xiao So walked in front of Ling. "However, he did not really hurt you, and you have already taught him a lesson. Let's drop this matter, and we will not pursue it any further." Even though Xiao So was apologizing, her attitude was still condescending. In her opinion, she was not only the eldest daughter of the Xiao family, but also the holy maiden of the light world. It was already very good that she could apologize. As for anything else, it was simply impossible. Hearing that, Ling looked coldly at Xiao Sou. Her calm expression did not change at all. According to Miss Xiao, if we don't stop now, how do you want to pursue it? Ling Er's face was filled with a mocking smile, and she did not hide it at all. When she heard Xiao Sou apologizing to her, she was a little surprised. After all, according to her understanding, Xiao Sou was not such a person. As expected, this apology was not at all apologetic. On the contrary, it was filled with arrogance. If she had accepted it, she would not be Ling Er. You should at least show some sincerity in your apology. Seeing Ms. Zhao's attitude, I can understand why Xiao Zhongliang is so overbearing. Bai Yin Che's eyes were filled with disdain. He slowly walked to Ling Er's side and stared coldly at Xiao Sou, without any intention of avoiding the sharp edge. Xiao Sou did not expect Bai Yin Che and Ling Er to be so unyielding. Logically speaking, given her status, her willingness to apologize, this in itself. However, the two of them did not give her any face at all. This made her feel very embarrassed. Jun Lingshuan's expression turned cold when he saw this. It seems that you're not willing to reconcile. If you want to reconcile, you should at least show the right attitude. Who would be willing to accept such an apology? Bai Yin Che sneered. The disdain in his eyes became even more obvious. Do you think that everyone will have to give in to you just because you're about to become the holy maiden of the light world? Aren't you a little too shameless? Xiao Sou's expression changed abruptly when she heard this. You. Chapter 5307. When the crowd heard Bai Yin Che's merciless ridicule toward Xiao Sou, their eyes were filled with astonishment. Even though both parties were rivals, these words were rather delightful. Even though Xiao Sou's current status was not simple, and there were many cultivators who were chasing after her, everyone was still rather unhappy regardless of whether it was out of jealousy or disdain. However, it was not appropriate for them to say such things out loud. Now that someone had said it, they naturally felt relieved. Who are you? Xiao Sou calmed down. At the very least, she had to find out who these two fellows were. Since they had dared to speak to her in such a manner, their identities were probably not simple. However, Linger only stared coldly at Xiao Sou and did not even have the slightest interest in speaking. Speaking another word to this kind of person would be a waste of time. Seeing this, Xiao Sou's face turned even more ashen. Jun Lingshuan noticed that Xiao Sou was about to lose control of her anger, so he turned towards Jiang Wenyan and asked, Young Master Jiang, are these two your friends? Jiang Wenyan looked at Linger. This was the first time they had met, and he did not know if they could be considered friends. Just then, Xiao Zhongliang walked towards Xiao Sou's side and said, Eldest lady, these two are from the Bailey family. Bailey family? Xiao Sou was slightly stunned. She then looked at Bai Yin Che and Jun Lingshuan with a complicated look in her eyes, and her expression turned even gloomier. You're from the Bailey family? She had long heard about Bailey Hongzhuang becoming the head of the Bailey family. She had initially been suspicious of this because it was simply too baffling. However, looking at their attitudes now, she began to believe it. If it were not for her relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang, these two would never have dared to treat her with such an attitude. Do you think you're so great just because Bailey Hongzhuang is the head of your family? Speaking so arrogantly, do you really think no one can teach you a lesson? Xiao Sou immediately unleashed the power within her body. If the other party had not been a member of the Bailey family, perhaps she would not have done so. However, when she thought of Bailey Hongzhuang, she felt a strong urge to kill these two fellows. Bailey Hongzhuang had made her sullen for so long, so she had to make Bailey Hongzhuang unhappy. Miss Xiao, you're really impressive. A cold and mocking voice rang in everyone's ears. Then, everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beicheng slowly walking into the encirclement. Previously, they had been staying in the corner, and the commotion here was too big, so many people didn't notice them. Now that the two of them had appeared, Everyone's expression became more and more interesting. Isn't this young Master D and his wife? I didn't think that they would be here too. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. This is going to be a good show. Xiao Sou's words were obviously directed at Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao Sou was shocked when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's sudden appearance. She never thought that the two of them would appear so coincidentally. Could it be that these two fellows have been here for a long time and have been hiding to watch the show? Thinking back to what she had just said, her expression became a bit awkward. I'm the head of the Bailey family. If Miss Xiao has any problems, please direct them to me. Chapter 5308. Jun Lingxuan was a little surprised when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Previously, they had not heard that the Bailey family had arrived in the Piercing Wind City. Xiao Sou straightened her expression and eased the awkwardness from before. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're here. If we didn't come, I'm afraid that eldest Miss Xiao would target the Bailey family. Bailey Hongzhuang's exquisite and beautiful face was filled with a cold smile. She did not intend to change the topic just like that. Xiao Sou's eyes flashed slightly. She had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be in the vicinity. The words she had said previously were too targeted, and she did not know how to smooth things over since the other party refused to let go. Miss Bailey, So had only said those words because she was too angry. You don't have to take it to heart. Jun Lingxuan immediately tried to smooth things over. Although they were already on opposite sides, it would not be good if the matter was blown out of proportion in such an unreasonable situation. I think that eldest Miss Zhao's words do not seem to be joking. Elder sister. Bai Lianche and Linger walked over to Bailey Hongzhuang's side when they saw her. Hearing how Bai Lianche addressed her, the crowd was slightly stunned. Then, they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's beauty and suddenly felt that it was normal for Bai Lianche to be so heaven-defying. This Bailey Hongzhuang brother and sister's looks are really devilish. I want to ask if they have any other siblings in their family. The boy is really handsome and the girl is beautiful. These are nothing. In my opinion, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's child will be the real devilish one in the future. Once these words were spoken, the crowd's eyes lit up. With Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's devilish looks, their child will definitely be outstanding. Who knows how devilish that child will be? Xiao Sou saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was not going to let it go, and her face turned gloomy. She was already very unhappy with Bailey Hongzhuang, and this girl kept on provoking her. How could she not be angry? Bailey Hongzhuang, you're deliberately looking for trouble. Her cold voice was mixed with anger and questioning. Ever since she met Bailey Hongzhuang, she knew that this girl was a wolf in sheep's clothing. You've wronged us. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. You should be clear about the ins and outs of the matter. It was your Xiao family that was in the wrong first. In front of so many people saw it clearly. Now you want to blame it on us? Isn't that too much of a sophistry? Even if you want to find a reason, you should find one that makes sense. Di Beichen calmly added a stab, making Xiao Sou speechless. You. Xiao Sou's face was full of anger. This matter was not like what Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang had said. However, she was not in the right from the beginning. In addition, these two people were good at talking, so the more she said, the more unreasonable she was. Such a person can actually become a deacon of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. I've long heard that the Xiao family can cover the sky with one hand in the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Now I believe it. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and sighed. She looked so regretful that it was as if the Xiao family was trash. My sister is the Saint of Light. The Radiant Sacred Assembly naturally listens to my sister. What can you do? Chapter 5309. Following Xiao Sudong's words, the expressions of everyone present changed. Although they understood that this was indeed the case, Xiao Sudong had said it so bluntly. This showed that he had no respect for the president of the Holy Assembly. Jun Lingxuan could not help but frown when he heard this. It was fine for them to say such things in private, but to say it in front of so many people, it would not sound good if word got out. He could not help but look at Xiao Sou. At a time like this, it would be best for him to restrain himself. However, Xiao Soa did not care about this at all. She was the holy maiden of the holy light. Although in theory her position was slightly inferior to the president's, in reality, even the president could not do anything to her. She wanted to let Bailey Hongzhuang know that her status was no longer ordinary. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang had become the head of the Bailey family, her influence could not be compared to hers. She was now someone that Bailey Hongzhuang could not reach. You don't have to say such things to provoke me. Now, in the Holy Assembly, my influence is not something you can imagine. My position is not something that you can influence with just a few words. Xiao Sou's lips curled into a complacent smile. She stared straight at her, as if to say, "What can you do to me? Then I hope you can sit firmly on this seat. If something happens midway and you fail to successfully sit on it, wouldn't that be a waste of your current arrogance?" Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Compared to her usual faint smile, her smile at this moment was particularly seductive. It carried a sense of bewitchment and threat, causing Xiao Sou to feel uncomfortable for no reason. She felt as if something bad was about to happen. Isn't that obvious? Xiao Sudong rolled his eyes. My elder sister was already the successor of the holy maiden of the holy maiden many years ago. Who else can shake her position? Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged and did not say a word. Let Xiao Sou be proud of herself for a while. The more proud she was now, the uglier she would be when she fell. That's hard to say, considering the way you guys do things that don't distinguish between public and private matters, Di Beichin said lightly. As soon as he said this, Xiao Sudong and Xiao Sou's faces turned ashen. Jiang Wenyan, however, chuckled and looked at Di Beichin playfully, giving him a thumbs up. Brother Di, you really know how to hit the nail on the head when you speak. Great minds think alike. Xiao Sou could no longer control the anger in her heart when she saw the two of them mocking her in front of her. Don't talk nonsense here. It's not up to you to criticize me. You're thinking too much. We're not interested in judging you. Di Beichin's eyes darkened. What kind of explanation are you going to give us about Xiao Zhengliang flirting with Ling Er? Explanation? Xiao Sou frowned. Jun Lingxuan took a step forward, his eyes full of disdain. Why should we give you an explanation? Brother-in-law, there's no need to be polite to this kind of guy. Just do it. Bali Yanche's eyes were as cold as knives. Based on his character, he would have crippled all these guys. You're right. Di Beichin nodded slightly. Since you insist, then we can only see who's the real deal. Chapter 5310. As Di Beichin and the others took their positions, the surrounding cultivators could not help but take 2 steps back and give them some space. The light in their eyes grew even more fervent. This was going to be a good show. Brother Di, do you mind if I join in? The corners of Jiang Wenyan's lips curled into a bright smile. His deep gaze turned towards Di Beichin. Seeing this, Di Beichin's lips curled into a smile, and he tilted his head. Of course. Jiang Wenyan chuckled and immediately stood next to Di Beichin. From the moment he had chosen to stand on the same side as Di Beichin and the others, he had already thought about the situation he would face today. Other methods would not be able to make the other party truly believe him. The only way was to let the other party see his sincerity. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze softened. If she had been a little suspicious before, she now believed Jiang Wenyan. They had always been very friendly towards their friends. Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou looked at each other. They could not believe that Jiang Wenyan would actually make such a choice. Logically speaking, this matter had nothing to do with Jiang Wenyan at all. Putting aside the fact that this fellow had gotten himself involved, by the looks of the situation, he was going to declare war on them together with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. What on earth was going on? Since when did young Master Jiang and young Master Di have such a good relationship? I've never heard of it before, but the fact that young Master Jiang is willing to stand out at a time like this shows that their relationship is close enough. The Xiao family's influence is clearly greater now. I really don't understand why he would make such a choice. The crowd looked at each other. As the young master, Jiang Wenyan's actions did not only represent himself, but the entire family. This was a major piece of news. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. A battle was about to break out. Even though this was the Shao family's territory, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not afraid at all. However, at this moment, a dignified female voice rang out. "So, what's going on?" Hearing this voice, Xiao Sou's eyes instantly lit up. Before she could turn around, Tong Yunshu's figure had already appeared in her line of sight. "Master." Tong Yunshu slowly walked to Xiao Sou's side. She looked at Xiao Zhengliang, who was still bleeding from the corner of his mouth, and then looked at Di Beiqian and the others who were about to make a move. Her expression turned cold, and there was a hint of anger. "Sei Wu, are they bullying you?" Xiao Sou shook her head and whispered into Tong Yunshu's ear. After hearing how Xiao Sou addressed her, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that this woman should be the vice president of the Holy Light Assembly, Tong Yunshu. This Tong Yunshu was clearly a beauty. Time seemed to have treated her exceptionally well, not leaving many traces on her face. On the contrary, she exuded the unique charm of a mature woman, very attractive. Looks like the rumors are true. Tong Yunshu is indeed extremely protective of Xiao Sou. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Jiang Wenyin spoke up as well. Tong Yunshu has remained unmarried all these years and practically treats Xiao Sou as her own daughter. She's not just a little protective of her. Over the years, in order to help Xiao Sou successfully ascend to this position, who knows how much effort she has put in. Di Beiqian nodded gently, and his gaze deepened. If Hongzhuang were to become the holy maiden of the holy light, this Tong Yunshu would definitely be a problem. Chapter 53:11. Xiao Zhengliang could not help but gulp when he felt those sharp gazes. He lowered his head guiltily, not daring to meet their gazes. He understood that when he returned today, he would not be able to avoid being punished no matter what. I already understand the situation. The reason why you're not letting this go is because you feel that we have not punished Xiao Zhengliang. You can rest assured that since he has done such a thing, we will definitely punish him. Tong Yunshu stepped forward. Her calm voice was extremely calm, but it was as if she was announcing a verdict, not allowing anyone to refuse. Seeing Tong Yunshu's imposing manner, Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. Like master, like disciple, these two style of doing things was very similar. Vice President Tong, if you take him away like this, how would we know if he has not been punished? Bali Yanche's voice was cold. He did not believe that this guy would receive any serious punishment after being taken away. It was obvious that they were just doing it half-heartedly. If I say he will be punished, then he will be punished. Do you think I would lie to you? Tong Yunshu's face was ashen. These juniors dared to question her words like this. That's hard to say. Ling Er said indifferently. Jiang Wenyin also spoke up. Could it be that your Radiant Sacred Assembly is supporting this kind of person to be a deacon? That's just too unreasonable. Then what do you want to do? Tong Yunshu's eyes were filled with haze. Her cold appearance was filled with anger, but she still suppressed it. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. It's very simple. As long as we remove this guy from his position as a deacon, this matter will end here. Originally, she wanted to help Shi Hongqiao take back his position as a deacon, but she thought that she would only be able to do so after she had obtained the position of Holy Maiden. She never thought that Xiao Zhengliang would offend them of his own accord. Naturally, she had to grab this opportunity. If Shi Hongqiao was supported back to his original position before this, then it would be much easier for him to deal with this matter. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Sou and Tong Yunshu's expressions changed. They had done everything they could to find a reason to support Xiao Zhengliang to this position. He had only been a deacon for a few days. If he lost his position, wouldn't they become a joke? Xiao Zhengliang's face was also pale. He had fought for this position with great difficulty. It was a very lucrative position. Not only did he have money, but he also had power. Ever since he became a deacon, his position was very different from before. If he was kicked out of his position, then he would not accept it. Impossible. Xiao Sou refused without hesitation. Tong Yunshu also spoke up. This is a matter of our Radiant Sacred Assembly. There's no need for you to worry about it. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone sighed. I knew that Xiao Zhengliang was able to become a deacon because of shady dealings. Now it seems obvious. To be to Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was cold. According to Vice President Tong's words, you're planning to leave without doing anything? What else do you want? Tong Yinshu also recognized Bailey Hongzhuang. It was Bailey Hongzhuang who had caused Xiao Sou to be unable to eat or sleep well these days. Naturally, her attitude was not good. Let's go. It's not that easy to leave. Chapter 53:12. You can't leave without paying a price for laying a hand on one of our people. The next moment, under Tong Yunshu's shocked gaze, Di Beichen's figure suddenly moved. He swept past Tong Yunshu at lightning speed and landed a kick on Xiao Zhongliang's body. Thump! A clean kick with an incomparably tyrannical force sent Xiao Zhongliang flying, not giving him any face at all. Tong Yunshu, Xiao Sou, and the others never thought that Di Beichen would suddenly make such a move. By the time they had reacted, it was already too late. They could only watch as Xiao Zhongliang was beaten to the point of spitting out blood. How dare you? Tong Yunshu rebuked angrily. Her face was flushed red and her eyes were burning with rage. How dare you attack a deacon of the Radiant Sacred Assembly? How should you be punished? However, Di Beichen ignored her. Since he won't take care of him, I'll have to do it myself. He had noticed Xiao Zhongliang's dispirited look from the corner of his eye and knew that this fellow would have to stay home and rest for a while. He then turned towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Let's go. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a small smile. Di Beichen's kick had been very satisfying. Ling Er, who had been extremely unhappy, felt much better after witnessing this scene. After all, she had not suffered any losses. She felt particularly relieved when she saw the ugly looks on Tong Yunshu's and the others' faces. Stop right there. Tong Yunshu called out to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Vice President Tong, is there anything else? You dared to injure a deacon of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. How can you leave just like that? If you don't give an explanation, everyone will be able to step all over the Radiant Sacred Assembly's head. Tong Yunshu roared. First, they had ignored her and then severely injured Xiao Zhongliang in front of her. This was a slap to the Radiant Sacred Assembly's face. Aren't you insulting the Holy Light Assembly by letting this kind of trash be a deacon? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't talk nonsense here. Xiao Sou pointed at her angrily. You attacked a member of my Xiao family and even ignored the vice president of the Holy Light Assembly. How dare you? Men, take them down. During this period of time, many people from both the Xiao clan and the Radiant Sacred Assembly had come. They had completely surrounded this place. Di Beichen suddenly laughed when he saw that the other party was about to gang up on him. It seems that we have to get ready to stretch our muscles. I've been wanting to exercise for a long time, Bali Yanche said. I thought that the Holy Light Assembly would be as straightforward as its name. Now it seems like it's a joke. Ling Er mocked. She didn't have a good impression of the Radiant Holy Assembly. Not to mention Ling Er, even the onlookers had the same feeling. Their impression of the Radiant Sacred Assembly was greatly reduced. Previously, they didn't think that the Radiant Sacred Assembly was so sinister. However, now that Xiao Sou had become the Holy Maiden of the Radiant Sacred Assembly, if any light attribute cultivator dared to offend the Xiao clan in the future, they would be done for. Vice President Tong, is this how you usually handle things when I'm not around? A low voice that was mixed with anger sounded out. It carried boundless dignity and caused the atmosphere at the scene to freeze. Seeing the person who had come, the originally arrogant Tong Yunshu's expression changed. President, why are you here? Chapter 53:13. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at the person who had arrived. As expected, it was the president of the Radiant Sacred Assembly, Lu Hongwei. She had seen Lu Hongwei at the pill refining competition in Water Splendor City, but she had only seen him from afar. She did not know much about his temperament. However, according to Shi Hongqiao, Lu Hongwei was an extremely responsible president. He was just like Tong Yunshu, and he was a fair person who only cared about the Radiant Sacred Assembly. I wonder if the president of the Radiant Sacred Assembly is also a snake in the rat's nest. Bai Yin-che frowned. He had planned to stretch his muscles, but he did not expect such a person to appear. He did not know which side this person was on. Am I not allowed to come? Lu Hongwei looked at Tong Yunshu indifferently. His gaze was calm, but it gave off a sense of scrutiny. Even though Tong Yunshu was the vice president, she was still very respectful to Lu Hongwei. This was because Lu Hongwei was number one in terms of strength, status, and influence in the Radiant Sacred Assembly. No one could shake him. President, things are not as you see them. You can listen to my explanation. Tong Yunshu quickly organized her words, thinking about how she could smooth things over in her mind. Her actions just now had probably made the president very unhappy. She knew that the president valued the reputation of the Radiant Sacred Assembly the most. Her actions just now had undoubtedly affected the image of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. There's no need. Lu Hongwei raised his hand and interrupted Tong Yunshu. I've seen the whole situation with my own eyes. I'm very disappointed in how you've handled it. Xiao Sou's body trembled. Clearly, this included her. This matter was originally very simple. Deacon Xiao should be punished for her mistake, but you only know how to protect her. Is the name of the Radiant Sacred Assembly something you can use to commit outrages? Lu Hongwei's loud voice showed his anger. He had never thought that he would trust Tong Yunshu so much, and that Tong Yunshu would handle things like this when he was not around. Now that she was like this, it could be seen that the situation was not very good when he was not around. Thinking of this, he was simply exasperated at the fact that he had failed to meet his expectations. President, we wouldn't dare, Tong Yunshu hurriedly said. She had never seen the president so angry in the past few years. It seemed that she was really angry this time. Don't dare? I think that's exactly what you did. Lu Hongwei's gaze landed on Xiao Zhengliang. Nothing can be accomplished without rules. Since Xiao Zhengliang has done something that goes against the image of a deacon of the Sacred Assembly, he naturally cannot continue to stay in the Sacred Assembly. From now on, you're no longer a member of the Sacred Assembly, and you're not allowed to enter the Sacred Assembly in the future. As Lu Hongwei's voice fell, Xiao Zhengliang's body trembled, and his face turned pale. It wasn't easy for him to reach this step, but in less than 2 days, this position was gone just like that. Most importantly, he was not allowed to enter the Holy Assembly in the future. This meant that he had no hope of returning to his position. Furthermore, as a cultivator of the light attribute, not being able to enter the Sacred Assembly meant that he would lose a lot of resources. It would be almost impossible for him to make any progress in his cultivation in the future. Such punishment was something he couldn't endure at all. Chapter 53:14. Hearing the president's decision, Xiao Sou's expression turned extremely ugly. Xiao Zhengliang's talent in the light attribute was pretty good, and it was because of this that they had supported him to this position. Who would have thought that because of today's matter, all their previous efforts would be in vain? Xiao Souo looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with resentment. Most importantly, Bailey Hongzhuang had gotten her way, and this was what she couldn't tolerate the most. After settling everything, Lu Hongwei looked at Di Beichen and the others. Young Master Di, are you satisfied with this punishment of mine? Di Beichen cupped his hands. Many thanks to the president. Unlike his disdain for Tong Yunshu, Di Beichen was much more respectful towards Lu Hongwei. It was obvious that the two of them weren't on the same level. Li Hongwei was an elder worthy of their respect. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also bowed. With Tong Yunshu as a comparison, Lu Hongwei was undoubtedly much more impartial. Xiao Zhengliang offended this lady earlier, and I hope you can forgive him. Lu Hongwei had a kind smile on his face. In the future, when our Radiant Sacred Assembly selects talents, we will definitely pay more attention to character. If there are any problems, I welcome everyone to point them out. As Lu Hongwei's voice fell, everyone's opinion changed. President Lu is indeed just and impartial as always. Fortunately, the Radiant Sacred Assembly has him as the leader, otherwise it would have been destroyed by Tong Yunshu and Xiao Souo sooner or later. Isn't that right? With President Lu overseeing things, light attribute cultivators without any background have a place. Otherwise, they would really be out of luck. The surrounding discussions weren't soft. and each sentence fell into the ears of Xiao Sou and the others, causing their expressions to turn even uglier. Wasn't this a slap in the face? Previously, when they were doing things, everyone was complaining, but now that the president had stepped forward, everyone's words changed. In contrast, they seemed even more unbearably sinister. Guild leader, they're only here to cause trouble because they have a personal grudge against me. Xiao Sou felt a little indignant. It was still fine when they were in the immortal cloud mystic realm, but now that they were in her territory, if she were to let Bailey Hongzhuang gain the upper hand, wouldn't she be inferior to Bailey Hongzhuang in the future? As the next Holy Maiden of Light, your personal grudges have affected the image of the sacred assembly. You should reflect on it. Lu Hongwei didn't give Xiao Sou a chance to refute it all. His plain words left her speechless. Facing such a Lu Hongwei, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others felt a little guilty. In fact, they knew in their hearts that their actions were indeed a little unreasonable. After all, ousting Xiao Zhengliang from his position was beneficial to all of them. It was precisely because of this that they admired President Lu's magnanimity even more. With Lu Hongwei's appearance, this matter was completely resolved. Xiao Sou and Tong Yinshu both left with Lu Hongwei. It was likely that they wouldn't be able to avoid some punishment when they returned to the sacred assembly. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't continue to stay in the underground market. After experiencing such a commotion, they had already become the focus of attention. There was no way for them to stroll around properly if they stayed, so they left first. Who would have thought that Miss Linger and Sir Yinshe are both members of the Bailey family? What a coincidence! Chapter 53:15. Linger and Yinshe have always stayed in the clan and rarely come out, so it's not strange that Sir Jiang hasn't seen them before. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Linger really didn't appear in front of others much. Bai Shi often appeared, but not in his current form. However, if others didn't ask about this, she didn't intend to say much. After all, although there were contract beasts that transformed into human forms, there weren't many of them. It was inevitable that it would cause a commotion. I see. Jiang Wenyan understood. Otherwise, with your looks, anyone who has seen you wouldn't be able to forget you. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze turned slightly towards Ling, and Yinshe. Just as Jiang Wenyan said, a demon beast's human form always had a unique charm that was unforgettable. Of course, not all demon beasts could be so devilishly beautiful after transforming. It was said that many beasts would appear particularly boorish after transforming into human form. For example, Yinshe and Yinshe were probably like this because of their racial advantage. In addition, they were very good-looking in their beast form. Speaking of which, it's quite interesting. I just realized that the people around Brother D all appear in pairs. You and Madame appeared together hand in hand, and so did Serwin from before. Now, Sir Yinshe and Ling are the same. You really make others envious. Jiang Wenyan shook his head and sighed. However, after hearing this, Ling and Bailey Yinshe couldn't help but look at each other in disbelief. I'm a pair with him? Ling pointed at herself, completely unable to accept this. How was that possible? Bailey Yinshe was also speechless. What do you mean? After hearing Bailey Yinshe's words, Ling eyes flashed with anger. Did this guy think that it was embarrassing to be called a pair with her? Although she felt the same way, what right did Bailey Yinshe have to despise her? Whatever you mean, I mean it, Bailey Yinshe said calmly. This isn't the first time you've done this. Ling glared at Bailey Yinshe fiercely. It was the same when they were in the Bailey family. Bailey Yinshe shrugged his shoulders. Looking at Linger's furious expression, he was also a little confused. He only felt that everything he said was very normal. All right, stop bickering. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at in front of young Lord Jiang? Bailey Hongzhuang hurriedly tried to smooth things over. It was fine if the two of them bickered normally, but it was a little awkward for them to do so in front of others. Hearing this, Linger and Bailey Yinshe finally calmed down. So I misunderstood. Jiang Wenyan smiled warmly. It's all my fault. The two of them are always like this. Brother Jiang, don't mind them. Di Beichen's eyes flashed slightly. He didn't miss Jiang Wenyin's expression. It seemed that Jiang Wenyin was indeed interested in Ling. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said such probing words. Obviously, his previous words were to test the relationship between Ling and Bai Li Yin-che. The result made him very happy. I feel that we are really fated. I hope that we can become true friends. Jiang Wenyin straightened his expression and looked seriously at Di Beichen. Brother Jiang, we have been friends for a long time. Di Beichen smiled faintly. From the moment Jiang Wenyin stood on their side, they were already true friends. Chapter 53:16. Looking at this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also showed a smile. After coming to the upper realm, they had made very few friends. Although their relationship with the Murong family was excellent, that was because Di Xiaofeng and Murong Jing were good friends. They didn't have many friends by themselves, so they were very happy to be friends with Jiang Wenyin. Of course, this was only what Bailey Hongzhuang and the others thought. In fact, many people wanted to make friends with them after seeing their strength and their frankness with their friends. It was just that they didn't have the right opportunity. Jiang Wenyin didn't stay for long. When he found out that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were planning to go to other places, he took the lead and left. It seems that we can rely on Ling to sell her body to attract allies in the future. This is much more efficient than using conventional methods. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and teased. Although Jiang Wenyin didn't say much, it was obvious that he was interested in Ling. Even when he said that they wanted to make friends, his gaze quietly fell on Ling. Actually, Yin-che isn't bad either. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. Just now, I heard many women say that they wanted to bear his children. Ha! Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. That's right. When the time comes, we'll see which force's young miss is beneficial to us and let Yin-che seduce her. It'll be 100% successful. Sister, Bailey Yin-che looked helplessly at Bailey Hongzhuang. She actually used this kind of thing to tease him. Ling also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang speechlessly. You're dreaming. That's not it. Bailey Hongzhuang winked proudly. Previously, we weren't sure about Jiang Wenyin's attitude, but after today's events, we can completely relax. Based on Jiang Wenyin's feelings for Ling, he wouldn't do anything to harm them. Although she had previously felt that Jiang Wenyin wanted to befriend them out of sincerity, with this layer of relationship, this alliance had become even more stable. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ling was speechless. I think you guys are overthinking it. That's not it. Bailey Yin-che also said Jiang Wenyin's performance was very obvious. Luckily, I haven't transformed into a human yet. Xiaobai cannot help but sigh. Otherwise, she would have been used as bait by her master. Leave this kind of mission to me in the future. Xiao Xuanzi's face was full of excitement. I don't understand why Yin-che is dissatisfied with such a good thing. So many beauties want to bear your children. If it were someone else, they would be overjoyed. With that, Xiao Xuanzi sighed again. Unfortunately, I still have some time before I could transform into a human. Seeing Xiao Xuanzi pretending to be sad, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but be amused. Xiao Xuanzi, that still depends on how you look when the time comes. If you're not good looking, then there's no chance. Xiao He laughed. Look at my master's looks. How can I not be good looking? Xiao Xuanzi puffed out his chest and gestured for everyone to look at Di Beichen. That's not necessarily true. Xiao He exposed him mercilessly. The looks of the master and the contracted beast are not absolutely related. The male master is good looking, but you might not be. Just wait and see. When the time comes, I definitely won't be bad. Xiao Xuanzi was full of confidence in himself. Then from now on, I'll leave this kind of mission to sell one's looks to you, Xiao Bai said solemnly. Chapter 53:17. Speaking of which, I'm a little curious. Why did you all buy purple clothes today? Xiao He looked curiously at Bai Li Yin-che and Ling. No wonder Jiang Wenyin thought that you two were a couple. You really do look alike. Then you'll have to ask Ling. Bai Li Yin-che looked at Ling. I've always been wearing purple clothes. When he first transformed into his human form, Bailey Hongzhuang gave him purple clothes. During this period of time, he had fallen in love with this color. Hearing this, Everyone's gaze turned to Ling. Ling, who had always been wearing Bailey Hongzhuang's clothes, so she had more white clothes. I just happened to see that this dress looked good, so I bought it. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others only smiled and didn't say anything. This was really a coincidence. Sister, why did you guys also happen to come to the underground market? Bali Yin Che then went back to the topic. When he came out earlier, he didn't hear that Bailey Hongzhuang was also coming out. Otherwise, they could have left together. We originally planned to go to the Inscription Association to take a look, but we happened to pass by the underground market, so we thought of taking a look. These days, the most lively place is the underground market. Almost everyone comes to take a look. I didn't expect to meet you guys there. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. If it wasn't for the underground market being so attractive, they wouldn't have met Xiao Se Wu and Xiao Si Wu there, and they wouldn't have had such a harvest. No wonder. Bali Yin Che immediately understood. In my opinion, since Xiao Sou is so arrogant, it's fortunate that the position of the Holy Maiden will be yours. Otherwise, the Holy Assembly will really be in a mess. Following Bali Yin Che's words, Linger also nodded in agreement. Indeed, that vice chairman is also a disgusting person. Fortunately, Chairman Liu is not bad. We made Xiao Sou suffer today, so I'm sure she hates us to the core. She must be thinking of ways to make us unhappy. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders. Xiao Sou was not a generous person. She still remembered clearly the venomous look in her eyes today. She really hated them to the bone. You dare to touch my wife? Let her try. Di Beichan raised his eyebrows and smiled. Even though the Piercing Wind City is the Xiao family's territory, if she can't find a suitable reason to make a move, it would be useless. Most importantly, she and Jun Lingxuan together can't beat us, Bali Yin Che said calmly. If it wasn't for someone who came to save the situation, he would have beaten them up until their parents couldn't recognize them. It wasn't easy for Xiao Sou to support Xiao Zhengliang. Now, Xiao Zhengliang has completely lost all hope. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Beichan. Beichan, since Xiao Zhengliang has lost his position, do you think Deacon Shi's position will be restored? That would depend on the internal arrangements of the Holy Assembly. I wonder what kind of name the Xiao family used to take away Deacon Shi's position. Di Beichan pondered. Since Chairman Liu is here, perhaps the situation will change. I hope so. I believe in Deacon Shi's ability. The group chatted as they walked slowly to the Inscription Masters Association. The building of the Inscription Masters Association was also very grand. The symbol on top was a complicated inscription pattern, which gave off a mysterious aura. Chapter 53:18. The inscription technique of the upper realm is indeed much stronger than the lower realm. She could tell just by looking at the inscription pattern. When she was in the lower realm, she had also learned about other inscriptionists. However, although they were inscriptionists, their level of inscription was obviously not high enough. My wife has always wanted to study inscription technique. Now that we are here, it's not bad to have a chance to understand it. Di Beichan's lips curled up. His wife was extremely talented in this aspect. Inscription technique was also very useful for cultivators. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Actually, you can also understand more about array formation. Di Beichan's array formation was learned from He Xinjun. There was no need to mention the strength of the Dark Holy Sun. The array formation that he grasped was also not something that ordinary people could compare with. However, Di Beichan had not come into contact with other array formation masters. If he could understand more, it would be of some help. Hearing this, Di Beichan smiled and said, "That's right. I'll ask around later if there's an array formation master association here." Ever since he understood the power of array formations, he was very interested in array formations. If he could master array formations, it would be of great use in many situations. When the four of them walked into the Inscription Master Association, they found that the spacious hall was already filled with people. Most of the cultivators here wanted to inscribe their weapons. If a weapon had a good inscription pattern, its effect in battle would be greatly increased. It was not easy to increase one's strength. However, one only needed an inscription pattern to increase one's combat strength. This was naturally something that everyone was willing to do. Although the price of drawing an inscription pattern was not cheap, the price to ask a master to help inscribe, it was even higher. Even so, there was still an endless stream of people coming to the Inscription Master Association. This Inscription Master Association is really lively. Linger noticed the dense crowd in front of her and couldn't help but sigh. The Inscription Master Association's liveliness is second only to the Alchemist Association. Any place that is helpful for cultivators to increase their strength is very lively. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she looked around. Many people were obviously familiar with this place. There were a few windows that were specially used to receive cultivators who wanted to ask for inscriptions. As long as they paid the corresponding price, they would be able to perform inscriptions. However, it seemed to be very difficult to get an inscription from an inscription master. Elder sister, what are you doing here? If you want to meet an inscription master, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Bali Yin Che frowned slightly. There were so many people here that it would take a lot of effort just to line up. Moreover, those people who were looking for inscriptions had to explain their requirements in detail, and they couldn't solve any of them in a short period of time. If they were to line up here, they might not even be able to get their turn even after waiting for a few hours. After noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's group, an attendant couldn't help but walk forward. With a single glance, one could tell that these people had extraordinary statuses. However, from their blank expressions, one could tell that it was probably their first time at the Inscription Association. May I know what the few of you need? The female attendant's face was filled with a brilliant smile. When her gaze landed on Di Beichun and Bai Li Yin Che, she even revealed a bit of shyness. Such handsome men, after seeing them up close, she was even more moved. Bailey Hongzhuang was a bit surprised. There were so many people in the hall, but there was actually an attendant who took the initiative to ask them. Chapter 53:19. Hello, I have a question to ask Master Guan. At this moment, a young man who was not far from Bailey Hongzhuang asked the attendant. His face was filled with anxiety and nervousness. It was obvious that he wanted to see the inscription master as soon as possible. The one who was stopped by the man was the female attendant who was walking slowly. She was already very depressed when she was one step behind. Now that she was stopped by this guy who was asking her questions, she was even more unhappy. Do you think it's that easy to see Master Guan? The woman rolled her eyes and pointed to a place not far away. Look carefully. How many people in the queue want to see Master Guan? Master Guan doesn't meet people easily. Then can you help me think of a way? I can't help you. At this moment, a young man walked over and looked at the person who was talking. My master is busy studying inscription patterns. He doesn't have time to see people. No matter what urgent matter you have, you can't see my master now. The man who was asking for help was surprised when he saw the young man. You're Guan Xian, right? That's great. I didn't expect to see you. Guan Xian smiled proudly when he saw that the man knew who he was. That's right, I am Guan Xian. Guan Xian, actually I am also an inscription master. However, I encountered a problem when I was learning inscription patterns. I wanted to ask Master Guan for help, but since Master Guan isn't free, I wonder if Guan Xian can give me some advice? Guan Xian hesitated when he heard that. He also didn't give advice to people casually. Most importantly, his master said that his inscription pattern technique wasn't mature enough and didn't allow him to give advice to people casually. The man saw that Guan Xian didn't speak and thought that he was unwilling. He showed a flattering smile and said, Guan Xian, you are Master Guan's last disciple. Everyone knows that your inscription pattern technique is high. I hope you can give me some advice. It'll be useful for me for the rest of my life. Guan Xian was happy when he heard the man's flattery. He was happy and said, If you have any questions, just ask. Young Master Guan, when I draw the explosion inscription pattern, I always fail for some reason. I have tried many times, but I always fail in the end. The man's face was filled with dejection and sadness. I hope young Master Guan can give me some pointers. Level 3 Explosive Inscription. Guan Xian asked. That's right. It's a level 3 rune of explosion. Did you mix the inscription fluid unevenly? I've tried many times. I've done every step according to the production method. There shouldn't be any problems. Tell me in detail about the inscription liquid you made. I added 10 grams of green flame rock, 3 grams of limestone powder. The man listed the ingredients one by one. His expectant gaze landed on Guan Qian, hoping to get an answer. When Guan Qian heard all this, he frowned. These materials were indeed good, but he couldn't tell where the problem was. How many explosive inscriptions have you drawn? The explosive inscription itself was very difficult to draw. If there was even the slightest mistake, it would not succeed. Chapter 53:20. The man's eyes lit up when he heard this. He nodded and said, "That's right. I was a little impatient when I was drawing it." Guan Qian smiled. It's not easy to draw a level 3 explosion inscription. The failure rate is very high. Go back and try again. It's normal to fail. You must keep a calm mind. As an inscription master, how can we be impatient? Young Master Guan is right. Thank you for your advice. I'll go back and try again. The man smiled and cupped his hands. He was extremely grateful for Guan Qian's advice. Go, go. Guan Qian waved his hand. His young face was filled with pride. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh when she heard the conversation between the two. That works too? Sister, is there a problem with what Guan Qian said? Baisher was undoubtedly very familiar with Bailey Hongzhuang's character. Just by looking at her expression, he could guess that what this guy was saying was complete nonsense. In fact, let alone Bailey Hongzhuang, even Di Beiqin and the others thought that Guan Qian was talking nonsense. There must be a reason why he couldn't succeed after drawing so many times. Even if his mind wasn't calm enough, it couldn't be the reason that led to so many failures. Guan Qian turned his head with a smile and noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' speechless expressions. A trace of displeasure appeared on his face. What are you looking at? Bailey Hongzhuang quietly retracted her gaze. She originally wanted to meet this Master Guan. Since he was called a master, he must be very capable. However, after seeing the standard of this last disciple, she gave up the idea. Just this kind of guidance. Forget about it. Young master, how can I help? The female attendant smiled and looked at Di Beiqin. This man, with such an extraordinary temperament, was many times better than the guys in the guild. If she could get his favor, she would have a meteoric rise in the future. Di Beiqin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Why, if you say it? Hearing this, the smile on the woman's face immediately froze. Her stiff expression was very awkward. I would like to ask, how can I see the books in the Inscription Association? Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the surroundings. According to her judgment, the Inscription Association definitely had a lot of books. Originally, she planned to interact with the Inscription Master, but from the lively situation, she knew that it would be difficult to meet the Inscription Master if she didn't put in a lot of effort. Since that was the case, she might as well take a look at the guild's library. That way, she would be able to gain some understanding. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the waitress was stunned. You want to look at our guild's library? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Not bad. The female attendant's gaze instantly became strange. There were many people who came to the Inscription Association, but this was the first person to make such a request. Are you a member of our guild? Guan Qian couldn't help but speak out. His eyes were filled with ridicule. I don't think you are an inscription master. If you want to look at our guild's library, only an inscription master can do it. Others can forget about it. If you want to learn the inscription technique by looking at the library, I think you should give up. The inscription technique isn't that easy to learn. It's useless even if you read the books. As an inscription master, he had a master to teach him, but he still felt that it was very difficult. Chapter 53:21. As long as I become an inscription master, I will be able to read the books here? Bailey Hongzhuang inquired. Up until now, she had learned all her inscription techniques in the Chaos Ring. After coming to the upper realm, she had not met any other inscription masters. Through reading the books, she was able to gain more knowledge and also be clear about her current level. Guan Qian saw that Bailey Hongzhuang did not intend to give up, and his brows were filled with anger and impatience. He wanted to see what this fellow was trying to do. He did not miss the mocking expression on this fellow's face. It was obvious that this fellow was disdainful of his answer. A mere layman who couldn't even acknowledge a master wanted to learn inscription techniques through reading books. This was simply a fool's dream. Don't look at the few fellows in front of him who looked like they had decent statuses. However, Guan Xian had stayed in the Inscription Association for so long and had seen all kinds of people. Just because they looked good on the surface did not mean that their statuses were not ordinary. That's right. As long as you become an inscription master, you will be able to read our association's books. Guan Xian raised his eyebrows and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Don't tell me you intend to take the inscription test. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang replied indifferently. Let me tell you, if you're not an inscription master, you will not be able to enter our library. Guan Xian circled around Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. His face was filled with pride and disdain. The books in our library are all extremely precious. Wait, what did you just say? Guan Xian's gaze froze on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. He had vaguely heard an answer just now. I said I intend to take the inscription test. Bailey Hongzhuang increased the volume of her voice. No one knew if it was to prevent Guan Xian from not hearing it clearly or to stop Guan Xian from explaining. At this moment, not only Guan Xian, the two attendants by the side were also dumbfounded. What kind of joke was this? She wanted to take the inscription test just to read the books in the library? This test was not something that could be passed easily, unless Bailey Hongzhuang was an inscription master herself. But if she was really an inscription master, how could she not see these books? This didn't make any sense at all. Guan Xian was stunned, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Isn't this woman looking down on the inscription master test too much? One had to know that every year, countless people wanted to become an inscription master, and countless inscription apprentices wanted to pass the examination to become a true inscription master. However, the success rate was extremely low. Now, this fellow wasn't even an inscription apprentice, and he wanted to take the inscription master exam. Wasn't this just a fool's dream? It's not that easy to become an inscription master. If you want to try your luck, I think you should just go back. Don't waste our time. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly and felt a little disgusted. The disciple of Master Guan in front of her was really self-righteous. He believed everything without knowing anything. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and looked at the female attendant on the other side. What are the conditions to take the inscription master examination? The female attendant was slightly stunned. After she came back to her senses, she said, "You only need to pay 10,000 spiritual stones to take the inscription master examination." After hearing the number of spiritual stones, Bailey Yin Shay couldn't help but sigh. This is really black-hearted. Participating in an examination actually requires so many spiritual stones. This is to prevent people from making up the numbers and wasting everyone's time. Chapter 53:22. Who did you say was a fake? Di Beichen's gaze turned cold. Previously, they couldn't be bothered to argue with Guan Xian. However, not only did this fellow not restrain himself, he even started to climb all over them. I'm talking about Guan Xian rolled his eyes. He originally wanted to point out that the person he was talking about was Bailey Hongzhuang. However, he never thought that he would be so shocked by Di Beichen's terrifying gaze that he couldn't bring himself to say the word. What a terrifying gaze. Guan Xian couldn't help but shiver. His sharp gaze was filled with a shocking, murderous intent and shock. He felt that he would be destroyed by this handsome man in the next second. Seeing that Guan Xian had shut his mouth, Di Beichen then retracted his gaze. Guan Xian wasn't very old. He was about 18 years old, so they couldn't be bothered to argue with him. I want to sign up for the inscription master's examination. Bailey Hongzhuang took out a Qinquan bag and handed it to the female attendant. Here are 10,000 spirit stones. The female attendant took the spirit stones and couldn't help but look at Guan Xian. Young Master Guan, our association is very busy today, so we can't carry out the examination. If you want to take the examination, wait 3 days later. It just so happens that there are a few inscription master's apprentices taking the examination at that time. Guan Xian's expression was filled with fear. Although he was still very displeased, judging from the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang could casually take out 10,000 spirit stones, she probably had a certain background. His master wasn't around today. His master would come out of his closed-door cultivation in 3 days. When that time comes, he would wait to see this fake woman humiliate herself. However, in front of Di Beichen, he didn't dare to say anything else. After setting the time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three left first. They would only come back 3 days later to take the examination. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had left, Guan Xian stomped his feet. His face was filled with anger. Isn't she just a fellow who can't find a mentor? She's actually so arrogant. When the time comes, I'll show you how powerful our inscription association is. As the disciple of Master Guan, he had always been sought after by everyone. Today, that damn guy dared to treat him like this. He must investigate the identity of these guys and turn the tables. The two female attendants were speechless when they saw that Guan Qian only dared to curse after the other party had left. What was he trying to do behind their backs? If he had the ability, he should have said it earlier. I think that Guan Qian is just a sloppy person. His inscription technique isn't good at all, but his temper is quite bad. Bai Liyin Che sneered. That guy actually believed him. We don't know if that guy really believes it or not. Maybe he's just pretending to please Guan Qian. Ling said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Since Guan Qian is the last disciple of Master Guan, there are naturally many people who beg him. Being able to make him happy with just a few words of flattery is a good deal. I didn't expect that the inscription master examination would take 3 days. It's quite troublesome. Xiao He felt helpless. In the past, when Master took the alchemist examination, it was done directly. It's fine. We have to stay here for a while anyway. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Let's go back first. Chapter 53-23. Bailey Hongzhuang is really despicable. Xiao Shou could not help but curse out loud. Whenever she thought of Bailey Hongzhuang, she gnashed her teeth in hatred. If it wasn't for her, Master would not have been scolded by the president. I wonder what kind of punishment she would have received. She had been training with Tong Yunshu since she was young. After all these years, she had already treated her master as her closest kin. If Tong Yunshu had not tried to protect her today, she would not have ended up in such a state. Seeing the anxious Xiao Shou, Jun Lingxuan could not help but say, "Don't worry, the vice president will be fine." Although the previous incident had angered the president is not an unforgiving person. I'm sure he was just saying a few words. Xiao Shou pouted her little mouth and looked at Jun Lingxuan with an aggrieved expression. We must get rid of this Bailey Hongzhuang. She's simply a stumbling block on my path to success. The D family's influence is not small. If we want to deal with them, we'll have to think of a long-term plan. Jun Lingxuan sighed. He also wanted to kill Di Beichun to avenge Shi Tao. However, with their current strength, it was not enough. Hearing this, Xiao Shou could not help but stomp her feet. The unwillingness on her face became even more intense. Despicable. This is our territory. How can we let them be so arrogant? Don't worry. We still need to find help for this matter. Xiao Shou's eyes lit up. Her originally dejected little face immediately regained its spirit. You mean, we'll find someone to teach them a lesson? With our current strength, if we were to fight with them, it would be hard to say who would have the upper hand. You've seen their battle prowess. It's definitely not simple. However, if we can force Di Beichun to use the skeleton summoning technique here. Without waiting for Jun Lingxuan to finish his words, Xiao Shou understood, and a smug smile bloomed on her face. Right now, everyone is still very repulsed by the power of darkness. If Di Beichun uses this method in front of everyone, he will definitely be ostracized. Even though so much time had passed, the scene of Di Beichun summoning skeletons was still vivid in her mind. That kind of scene, as long as one experienced it, would be unforgettable. Jun Lingxuan nodded slightly. That's why we have to plan this carefully. All right. First of all, we have to figure out where they are now and how many members of the D family are here, Jun Lingxuan said in a deep voice. After Bailey Hongzhuang and others left, Guan Xian thought about it and still felt unreconciled. As the last disciple of Master Guan, he was despised like this. He had to figure out who these guys were. Therefore, Guan Xian directly followed them out. When Xiao Shou arrived at the Drunken Cloud residence, she found that Guan Xian was sneakily looking inside. She couldn't help but walk to Guan Xian's side, patted his back and said, "Guan Xian, what are you doing here?" Being patted by someone, Guan Qian's whole body stiffened. He only felt that his luck couldn't be that bad, right? Not long after he arrived, he was discovered. As soon as he turned his head, Guan Qian found that the one standing next to him was Xiao So. He quickly reached out and patted his chest. His whole person was relieved. "Sister So, you almost scared me to death," Guan Qian gasped. "You almost scared me to death." Chapter 53:24. I followed a few guys here. Guan Qian lowered his voice with a mysterious look on his face. Xiao So frowned. "Why are you following them?" "I met a few strange people in the guild today. They said that they wanted to take the inscription test, and they even dared to laugh at me. I was not convinced, so I followed them to take a look." Guan Qian's young face was filled with depression and unwillingness. He felt that there was nothing wrong with his previous guidance, but a layman actually dared to laugh at him. This made him feel very unhappy. "There are actually people who dare to laugh at you?" Xiao So was also surprised. Guan Qian was the grandson of Master Wan, who in the Piercing Wind City didn't know him. Usually, everyone would think of ways to please Guan Qian. As for mocking him, it was something that would never happen. Isn't that so? When Guan Qian saw that Xiao So agreed with him, he became even angrier. "I don't think she can find a teacher. That's why she wants to learn about inscription techniques through our guild's books." What a joke. As he spoke, Guan Qian looked at Xiao So suspiciously. "Sister So, what are you doing here?" "I'm also here to confirm if the guy I hate is here." Xiao So's gaze sank. After returning, she sent people to inquire about the whereabouts of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. In the end, she found out that they were living in the Drunken Cloud residence. Such a coincidence? Guan Qian was a little surprised. "Sister So, who do you hate?" "Those people from the D family." Xiao So did not hide it. In fact, everyone in the European Union knew about the hostile relationship between them. They only needed to ask a little, and they would know. Guan Qian listened and nodded. "Ah, I know, you guys are now opponents." "Then do you want to go in now?" Guan Qian asked. "If you go in, can you help me find out who those guys I hate are?" It was his own decision to follow them out. He didn't need any attendance here, and he didn't dare to casually order his family members around. If his grandfather found out about this, he would inevitably be scolded. Xiao So and Guan Qian had known each other for many years, so she naturally understood his situation very well. She immediately nodded and said, "Tell me what those guys you hate look like. I'll help you ask around." Speaking of which, those four fellows are very good looking. There are 2 men and 2 women, and their clothes are very interesting. One pair of men and women are both wearing white clothes, and the other pair is wearing purple clothes. Don't you think it's very interesting? Guan Qian couldn't help but chuckle. It was hard not to notice such a group walking on the street. However, after hearing Guan Qian's words, Xiao So's gaze became even gloomier. "I think I know who you're talking about." She had just met Bailey Hongzhuang and the others in the morning. At that time, they were wearing the same clothes. "How did you know just by saying that?" Guan Qian was dumbfounded. "Because we hate the same people." Xiao So was a little speechless. She didn't expect such a coincidence, but these guys are really quite annoying, especially that Bailey Hongzhuang. "Is it that beautiful woman in white?" Guan Qian asked. "Remove the word beautiful." Xiao So frowned. Why did she feel so unhappy when she heard that word? "Oh, is it that woman in white?" "That's right, it's her." Chapter 53:25. Guan Qian's eyes were full of disgust. Originally, when he felt Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent attitude, he felt very angry. He didn't expect that Sister Sei Wu, who he was familiar with, also hated her so much. It could be seen that there was a problem with her. "Who is the person you said was going to take the inscription master examination?" Xiao So looked at Guan Qian. She didn't hear that Di Beichun and others had the inscription master's talent. It must be known that an inscription master with superb inscription technique was also an extraordinary existence. However, the difficulty of becoming an inscription master was no less than that of an alchemist. In the past, she had also learned inscription technique. However, this aspect was too complicated. She tried to understand it for a while, but finally gave up. Instead of learning those obscure inscription patterns, it was better to put all her energy into cultivation. After all, becoming the Holy Maiden of Light was the most important. At that time, the master she learned from was Guan Qian's father, Master Guan. It was because of this that the two of them met. "It's that Bailey Hongzhuang," Guan Qian said. As soon as these words came out, Xiao Shou couldn't help but be startled. Even Jun Lingxuan, who was beside her, revealed an expression of disbelief. "What did you say? Bailey Hongzhuang wants to take the inscription master examination?" Guan Qian nodded slightly. "Yes, she even paid the examination fee of 10,000 yuan. Xiao Shou rolled her eyes and couldn't help but ridicule. "Does Bailey Hongzhuang really think that she is talented and can do anything?" Jun Lingxuan also had a face of disbelief. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang showed her innate talent as an alchemist and doctor, they were extremely shocked. It had to be said that from this point of view, Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed very powerful. She did what many people couldn't do. However, in addition, Bailey Hongzhuang actually wanted to become an inscription master. This was really a fantasy. "Guan Qian, tell us about the previous matter in detail." Xiao Shou narrowed her eyes. "If she's talking nonsense, we will teach her a lesson." "That's great." Seeing that Xiao Shou was willing to help him vent his anger, Guan Qian revealed an excited smile on his face. Then he recounted everything that had happened in the Inscription Association. "You mean to say that Bailey Hongzhuang wants to take the Inscription Master examination because she wants to see the guild's library?" Jun Lingxuan was stunned. Why did he feel that Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts were so incomprehensible? "That's right." Guan Qian nodded. "Don't you think this idea is hilarious? Was it really that easy to pass the Inscription Master exam? I feel that she is simply blaspheming the inscription technique. In that case, she has already paid the examination fee and is preparing to take the examination in 3 days. Xiao Seiwu's eyes flashed with a trace of light. She didn't know how to make Bailey Hongzhuang lose face, but she didn't expect that the opportunity would appear in front of her so quickly. It seems that even the heavens couldn't stand it anymore. That should be the case. Guan Qian was a little hesitant. She has indeed paid the examination fee. However, I don't know if she is deliberately saying this to save her face. Anyway, the D family is rich and imposing. 10,000 spirit stones is nothing to them. Originally, he was very confident that Bailey Hongzhuang would take the examination. However, ever since he found out that she was the young madam of the D family, his thoughts were shaken. Chapter 53:26. Listening to Guan Qian's words, Xiao Shou chuckled, and her eyes flashed with a sly light. "Since he has already paid this fee, we can't let him waste it, right?" Guan Qian looked at Xiao Shou in confusion. "Sister Shou, what do you mean? Doesn't Bailey Hongzhuang like to pretend to be powerful? Then we will help her publicize this matter, so that everyone can see how much ability this talented woman has." Xiao Shou's dark pupils revealed pride and shrewdness. During this time, Bailey Hongzhuang had been in the limelight. In a short period of time, many people thought that she was a character who could stand shoulder to shoulder with her. She didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to use her as a stepping stone. If she could make Bailey Hongzhuang lose face in front of so many people, then Bailey Hongzhuang would be dreaming if she wanted to be arrogant in front of her in the future. With Xiao Shou's words, Jun Lingxuan and Guan Qian had already understood her meaning, and a conspiratorial smile suddenly appeared on their faces. "It seems that we have to help her publicize it." After the three of them made a plan, they didn't continue to stay outside the Drunken Cloud residence, but chose to go to another place to discuss in detail. Hongzhuang, that young man from the Inscription Association, seems to have followed us all the way here. What is he going to do? Ling reminded Bailey Hongzhuang. As a monster, her perception in this regard was also very strong. Although Guan Qian had been maintaining a certain distance, she still felt it clearly. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned, and then she couldn't help but shake her head helplessly. This guy is really vengeful. I just sighed, and I didn't even say what was going on, but he still held a grudge and followed us all the way here. It was precisely because she didn't want to cause trouble that she didn't say what was wrong, but she didn't expect to be remembered. That kid is used to being pursued by others. He is proud and arrogant. How can he stand being wronged? Bali Yin Che was very calm. Should I go and catch that kid and ask him what he wants to do? Well, if he wants to follow, then let him follow. Anyway, it's nothing. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged and took a sip of tea with her red lips. Her delicate face was calm and indifferent. According to her judgment, this kid couldn't make any big waves. He just followed them here because of a moment of anger. He couldn't find trouble with them alone. He would leave after a while. That's true. It's useless for that kid to come here alone. Bailey Yinche chuckled. What a brat. At night, Bailey Hongzhuang went to Shi Hongchao's house again. When the two arrived, they found Shi Hongzhuang Yu and find Shi is Wang Zhuang Yu. Look at him. Young Master D, young madam. Looking at Deacon Shi's happy face, something good must have happened. Di Beichun joked with a smile. Originally, they came here to ask if Deacon Shi had taken back Xiao Zhongliang's position after he abdicated. However, now they knew the result just by looking at Deacon Shi's expression. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.